Hello, friends. Uncle Marv here with another episode of the IT Business Podcast. That's right, I am back live. This is the Wednesday live show presented by our good friends over at ThreatLocker, Zero Trust Total Protection. And yes, this is the show where we do a lot of things. We talk tech tips, we share stories, and we talk to vendors and other IT professionals, and we do all of that to try to help you run your business better, smarter, and faster. It's been a while, folks. It's been a whirlwind. 4 weeks, 3 conferences, 2 client road trips, and only 1 live show in that span. But we are back. I am here in Fort Lauderdale, Studio B, and we should be here, I think, 8 straight weeks before I have to be out on the road again. So it should be good. Of course, if you are caught up in your podcatcher, you'll notice that we are having a ton of shows out. I am releasing the shows that were recorded at Zero Trust World in Orlando from last week. I've got a few more of those going. I also had a audio recording that was put out yesterday, and I've got a few more of those. So we've got shows going, and we are on the road to 1,000. That's pretty impressive for me anyway, because I thought I would only do this for a couple of years, but yet here we are 10 years later doing this. And as part of this 10-year celebration, one of the things that I've been trying to do is to go back and find people that were kind of there before me. Some of their precursors, the veterans, those that paved the way, whether it was on podcast or YouTube's. So tonight I am doing that with a gentleman that, well, let's just say he is a YouTube sensation. He is somebody that has been on for quite some time, started doing PCs back in the early 90s, before some of you were even alive. That's not to say how old he is. That's just to say how long we have been in the business. I have been in the business almost as long as he has. He is Carey Holzman. He has the YouTube channel that basically shows you how to build PCs the right way. Carey, welcome to the show.
Hey, Uncle Marv. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. It has been a while.
You look exactly the same. Do me a favor. Could you get a little fatter and a little grayer?
I purposely hit the camera so it doesn't show the belly.
That's the secret?
That's the secret.
I got to adjust my camera.
Yeah. So,
nope, I mean, still got my face.
I have man boobs, but it is what it is.
Well, it's great to see you again, and thank you for having me back on.
Well, thanks for coming back. Thanks for doing this. So I'm going to address something. I do tune into your show every now and then, and I hopped on the other day and I answered a question, and you didn't know who I was because I wasn't, signed in as Uncle Marv.
And you don't normally, if you're there, you don't normally speak up. So
you have enough people that speak up. You don't need me in on that.
Never too many.
And you were explaining to the people that you were going to be on my show, and you told them that I focus a lot on the business world. You did not, and you were wondering, what in the world could possibly come from having you on the show. And part of it was what I said in the open, that I am trying to bring back people that were, influential to me in the sense of who were either podcasting or on the YouTube educating and freely sharing information of how to be in this business, regardless of where you were in the business, whether you're doing residential, business, enterprise. A lot of what we do does overlap. So I did want to at least acknowledge that and, tell you thank you and get you on the show. And it's not that my small audience is going to, add a blip to your audience, but there's probably some people who don't know you. And I said, let me get you on the show.
Well, again, I appreciate the invite. No, my thought was that when I watch your podcast, it seems like you have a lot of larger corporation people. For example, I don't know. I mean, what comes to mind, maybe something like Backblaze, some bigger company that provides services to the MSPs. And then some of the MSPs, they have multiple employees or multiple locations. And then there's RMM software. I don't do any of this. I'm just one guy. I've always been one guy. And I've always been reluctant to release any control or trust. I've had enough cleaning up other people's messes and making excuses for other people. I have just no tolerance for it. So I just say, I'll do it myself, which may not be a healthy attitude, but it is what it is. And so as a result, where I was 10 years ago as a business is where I am today as a business, where a lot of businesses grow and expand. I'm still me. I'm still doing my thing. Of course, I adapt to the changing technology and the way that I do things. But for the most part, I'm the only one doing the work. I'm the only one doing the sales. I'm the only one. I do have help now. So at least I've got, as far as like the billing and a lot of correspondence. My significant other she comes from the corporate world and she's used to all of the paperwork. I hate the paper. I love doing the work. I hate writing it all out.
Yeah.
So so in that case, it a little bit has changed because now I'm with somebody who understands what it is I need done, has a technical mind and a technical background. Her technical background is corporate. So a lot of the stuff she would work on was stuff way over my head. Big, power company, 20,000 employees with the servers, and she'll tell you all the OSI layers of a switch. Like, I don't know.
Right.
So for this, it works out really well. So as I was saying it, I realized a little bit has changed, and thankfully, I've been able to remove that burden, which is all of the paperwork and bill collecting, so that I can focus on doing what I love. But otherwise, it's still just me.
Well, listen, Carey, it's not that much different. For the most part, it's me doing what I do. I do have help as well. My wife works in the business, but I have subcontractors. I did have employees a while back, and when the remote services took off from me, I was going to say I didn't want them, but I didn't need them. Let's just say that, because a lot of times they would just sit around the office waiting for stuff to be done. If I could do it remotely, I didn't need them. So that's when I went to the subcontractor route, and I've enjoyed it, but I've still only done businesses, and I do a lot of law firms. And one of my law firms, well, they just dipped under 100 users in a co-managed situation. So I don't have to deal with them on the day-to-day basis for the little stuff, but I do manage their network. I do manage their connections between the offices. I manage their web protection, their endpoint protection, their cybersecurity, all of that. And then I've got other clients as well. So I like to tell people, you can be a solo tech and still operate in the business realm. And I call it being a boutique MSP, because I still do the managed services, but I'm not, striving to be that, $1 million MSP that everybody wants to be. And then once you get to 1 million, you got to get to 10 million, because that's just the natural progression of things.
Agreed. I was going to say artisan MSP, but boutique, very French.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. So let me ask you this, and we'll kind of start the conversation here, because you have been doing this quite some time. And like you said, in your mind, you're in the same place now as you were then, which really you're not, that. But if you look back over the 10 years, is there anything that really sticks out to you that has changed in the way that technicians look at computers?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for other technicians, and I don't really work with techs anymore generally. That was back in the first third of my first 10 years. Um, I think the biggest change, there's been three pretty big changes that stand out to me. One is the advent of the internet, back when we had DSL or ISDN lines, and there wasn't much you could do online, so there weren't really any rules. Nobody could trust to shop online. And if somebody was like, I'm going to furnish a house buying everything from Amazon, this was a news story. Like, is this even possible? And it was like in the newspaper, this guy is so convinced that the future is online, he's going to furnish his entire house buying everything from Amazon. And we've gone from that to then having to implement firewall and security software that prevents the employees from goofing off during work while they're on the clock and think nothing of it, that they're stealing from the company, or in some cases downloading movies and music, holding potentially the company liable. And that was a big change, getting to having internet. Then the next big change was 802.11b wireless. And it's amazing to me that being able to, when I first set it up the very first time, which was probably the late 90s, I took a laptop outside to the parking lot, and I was able to Skype with somebody while I was streaming music, while I was on Wi-Fi, on a battery, on a laptop in a parking lot. Boy, I couldn't believe it. Like, how is all that data transferring? Anyway, and then I'd say that the third thing has been, with the advent of broadband and how inexpensive it's become, and also the advent of the smartphone, then utilizing the wireless and causing all the networks to go down because they've used every IP address up. That happened almost overnight. We went from, we don't need wireless, to we can't connect. What are you trying to connect? My phone.
Right.
And this is back when everybody had their, how much data I mean, today there still are data limits, but it's the need for connecting the phone. The financial need isn't really like it used to be,
right,
to save your minutes or whatever it was. So then I'd say then remote access. And that has been the single biggest improvement to profit and service. I wish I had that 30 years ago. Of course, the customer has to have it too, right? But the ability that I can now help a client instantly. I don't have to get in the car. I don't have to get into traffic. I don't have to worry about mechanical breakdowns, accidents, tickets, 115 degrees outside in Phoenix. I don't have to deal with any of that. I sit in my chair. I connect remotely to their computer. Sometimes I ask them to show me. Can you demonstrate? Because sometimes I can't. Your computer's doing what? Let me see it. And so I have to get in the car and go see it. Now there's no delay. Instantly, I'm connected to their screen. Show me what's going on if I need to see it. Boom, okay, let me take control of it. ... Is the printer printing? Yes. Is the network connecting? Well, I can see it. Is there anything else I can help you with? No, that's it. Great. Have a nice day. Let me know if there's anything I can do. Boom. That service call could have been 30, 45 minutes in the car each way. There's an hour and a half just in sitting in the car for a 15-minute or 30-minute service call. And then how many of those can I do in an 8-hour or even a 10-hour day, right? So one of the things that used to really bother me is I would go on site and the client would say, well, since you're here, would you mind taking a look at this other problem I've never told you anything about until just this minute?
Yep.
And I'd say initially, okay, no problem. But this one customer kept doing it to me over and over. And I said, so I was ready for it. I didn't know what it was going to happen, but they, heaven forbid, they just let me finish my job and leave. So I said, I don't mind helping you with whatever problems you have going on. However, the last few times I've been here, you've brought up things that I'm not prepared for, and I've got other clients I've got to get to, and I've scheduled a certain amount of time, and I brought certain tools based on what you told me you needed serviced. The fact now that you're having this other unrelated problem, I have a few minutes. I'll take a quick look, but I need you to understand I have to go. I have another appointment, and I don't have everything I might need to solve that particular problem. And even saying that the customer did it again and they did it again. And I said, that's it. I don't have any available appointments with that customer anymore. I got tired of it. But now that there's remote, it wouldn't have been a big deal if we're on the phone and I've got remote access and they say, oh, well, you're connected. Would you mind looking at this or looking at that? At least if there was something I needed to pick up and bring back, I could at least make that determination and schedule that, or just take care of it while we're on the phone. So all of those frustrations, and clearly the customer can hear the frustration in my voice. They see I'm not happy about it. That's not great customer service, right? But at the same time, it's like, I don't blindside me. I mean, I understand it can happen, but not every single time you're going to blindside me with something. And I just think it was a way to kind of get away from tricking with the billing.
Yeah.
You know, I just hired you to fix the one thing, but while you're here, maybe you just look at that for me. Like it's a freebie, it's implied. And I mean, I'm a nice guy, you know, okay, I'll take a look at it. And then we'll just include it as your hour, I guess, because I don't want to nickel and dime you. I don't want to be that guy. But on the other hand, I didn't want to be put in that position. And so eventually when trying to correct it and the customer kept doing it, it's just, we're done. You know, I just couldn't do it anymore. But the biggest change, flat out, remote access.
Yeah,
flat out.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's where I am as well. The advent of managed services also helped in the sense that you probably don't have any full agreements like we do, but I just actually sent one out today that basically spelled out all the things that are covered under the agreement and all the things that are not. And in order for, a system to be looked at without a charge or an additional charge, it has to be covered under the agreement, which means our software has to be on it. It has to be managed. And if it's not, it's going to be billable at the full hourly rate. And that has helped a lot they're like, well, either let's get this on the plan, or they know that, I know you're going to bill me extra, but can you just do it? That's a whole different conversation.
I've had customers, so we call the famous moves, addition, deletions, or changes.
Yeah.
Right? Never include those because they decide, well, we're letting this employee go, or we're adding 3 more employees, or we want this computer moved over to that area, or we want to, that is not maintenance. It's not a maintenance contract. The problem I have is I talk to the owner of the company. I come in, I take a look, I say, here's how I can help you. We work out terms and arrangements that are agreeable. It gets written up, they sign it. And we just continue that. We continue it. And generally, I never raise my rate, ever. I got one client for over 15 years. He's paying me the same every 3 months as he paid me 15 years ago. And the reason I do that is it's like a loyalty reward. If you cancel with me and then you decide you want to come back, you're going to pay today's rates. But if you keep renewing, I'm going to keep the rate the same as an incentive for you to not leave. But the contract gets forgotten, right? And so the client may call and ask me to do something that we agreed, back years ago in the contract. But I've had the client so long, the debate I have with myself is just take care of the guy. Well, right, we'll chalk it up as the cost of marketing. Just take care of the guy. He's been with you a long time. So I don't feel the need to be strict, at least not with a client that's been with me for years. And it's understandable. They don't remember what's in the contract. They got a business to run. So most of my clients, like I have lawyers. One of the law offices I have has maybe 13 employees. And most of those employees have been there nearly the entire time. Handful have changed out, but that also makes my job easier because you've got people now who know the routine, right? Yep. You don't have somebody new that you have to start all over again. And in fact, because they've been there so long, they can do a lot of my job. In other words, if the printer isn't printing, they know how to check for toner and paper.
Right.
before they go. They know to turn the computer off and back on again. They've been through it enough with me. And so they help that employee out, and then that employee learns, and hopefully they stay for a while. And that's another reason I keep their rate low, is they're easy.
Yeah.
It seems like I don't hear from them for a while. Then they might call every day for a week. Then I don't hear from them for another 2 months. So I don't worry too much about the hours, as long as overall we're within the 3-month number of hours they're paying for on a quarterly basis. It all works itself out.
All right. Let me shift that question. Same question, but apply it to your listeners or viewers on YouTube. Now, I've got to imagine that with all the changes in technology over the years, the new processors, the memory, the RAM, the Windows operating systems and stuff, I want to say this in the gentlest way I can, but the kids today think a lot differently about computers than we did 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah,
when we were actually truly building machines
that's right.
on the regular. How have those viewers changed in terms of the way that they interact with you, maybe ask you questions, maybe think that because they've asked ChatGPT that, they know what's right and what's wrong?
Well, there's definitely a different perspective about computers within the last 20 years that I'm not a big fan of. And there's nothing that's going to make me sound like an old man and get off my lawn like, why are you putting RGB and liquid cooling? Why don't you just go put hubcaps on your lawnmower? This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's you're spending money you don't need to spend. You're having problems as a result because now the RGB software is not compatible with this other company's RGB, and it's causing a blue screen. And oh my gosh, why would you do this to yourself? And you paid money for that. What's wrong with you? Like, why would you? It's a computer. It's not a lamp. Go buy a lamp. Go buy a light bright. They're $15. You can move all the pegs around and stick it on the side of the computer. RGB. And yet, many of these same people that I hear from on YouTube, who had the money to pay for all of this nonsense that is a nightmare for support, and it's a nightmare to cable management. I mean, if you love it, don't get me wrong. If you love it, enjoy your hobby, but you're not going to get a job in IT where you're doing liquid cooling and RGB and overclocking and this hobbyist stuff. Very unlikely anyway. So when I hear the same people say, RAM is so much money. Well, you had plenty of money for needless RGB. So why, if you had the money so much left over that you could add all this ridiculous nonsense to your computer, it's hard for me to also hear you say RAM is too expensive, because you actually need to have the RAM. And maybe if you didn't spend all of that extra money on nonsense, you'd realize RAM is still quite affordable. I mean, when you think about what we paid for RAM, I don't know, 20 years ago, it's still a pretty good price today, considering. It's just that they got spoiled and they got used to a price. Whether or not that was a fair price, who's to say? But the bottom line is nobody says you can't have it. Nobody's restricting you from getting it. You'll pay the same going rate as the rest of us. And if you can't afford it, hey, you're not going to go without. This is why I don't drive a Rolls Royce. You don't think I want one? I can't afford it. So I've learned to live without it. It turns out it's just fine. So that's a change I'm seeing. There's an entitlement, like overall, I keep hearing this just injustice. It's not fair. Well, I don't know about you, but I was raised out of the get-go. Life isn't fair. Get used to it. You're not special, but you can have anything you want. You can't have everything you want. And if you're willing to work hard and make sacrifices, you can be anything you want, but you can't be everything you want. Or you can sit around and do nothing, right? But when you're 18, you're out of here. So that's your problem, right? So to me, and maybe I'm biased because that's how I was raised, That's what gave me the skill to be self-reliant and not dependent on others. So when I hear people being dependent on others, unless they're children or they're in some way unable to, help themselves due to a physical or mental disability, you're only alive for a certain period of time. Let's go. Let's do something. Make it count.
Yep.
And it's fine, you can play your games, but do something else as well as play your games. Spend a couple hours playing games. That's great. Not all day. Find another hobby. So I would say everything is shifted. The best way I can explain it, from my perspective, everybody's living like they're rich people. Everybody's got a TV in every room, and it's a big screen. Everybody goes out to eat every night, and then they complain about how expensive McDonald's is. We went to McDonald's, it was kind of a special deal. If my dad brought home a bucket of KFC, that happened once every couple weeks, maybe once a month. That was a special treat. Now it's every day. There's an indulgence, there's a gluttony, there's an entitlement, and they're not even happy. They're not even like, look how lucky we are. They're just like, this isn't good enough. And I think that's what I see a lot of on YouTube, is just this entitlement.
Yeah, it is. It's the same discussion that I see on HGTV when people are looking at houses and they just can't live without, marble or granite countertops, and, it's their starter home, but they have to have, top of the line. And it's like, okay.
It's
And
great
then,
to
of
have
course,
standards.
yeah, it is. And yet, when the contractor sees that the electrical hasn't been updated in years and needs to be replaced, nobody wants to do that because nobody sees that, right? So kind of the same thing.
Well, the thing is we grew up. I didn't know it at the time, but we were poor. Okay, I didn't know we were poor. We lived around a bunch of other poor people. That's the way everybody else lived. We never had a new car. We very rarely ever went out to eat. My parents were sinking in credit card debt, and we had a house without working heat. And I slept with I know I sound like an old man, but I'm so thankful for it.
I'm old too.
I am. That doesn't make me feel better, but I'm so thankful that I learned how to fix things because no one else in my family could be bothered. And I was like, life has got to be better than this. Like, I told this story the other day. We had a dishwasher that didn't work for about 2 years. So we would wash all the dishes in the sink. And one day I was like, why? We can't afford to fix it, even though we don't even know what's wrong. Could be something very simple, but nobody could be bothered to look. Both parents are working. Both parents are tired after work. The last thing they want to do is do anything at the house other than sit in front of the TV, okay, and have dinner, and that's it. So
one TV, by the way, right?
Yeah, we had a console television in the living room, and
yep.
And you bake a better door than a window was told to me several times when I'd sit in front of it, and don't sit too close to it, and yada, yada, yada. And the parents did have a TV in their own room. Those are only two rooms, the living room and the master bedroom. That was it. Kids did not have their own TV. And I decided I want a phone in my room, and I saw that there were wires in the wall, and they looked like phone wires. So I bought a jack from Radio Shack, and I plugged it all in, red to red, yellow to yellow, It worked. So I had a phone in my room. And then one day I said, I'm going to take apart this dishwasher. I mean, it's already broken, so I can't break it. And there were just 2 screws underneath the counter, and there was no YouTube. There was no how-to manual. I just looked at it, and looks like there's 2 screws. Take it out. Whole thing slides out. There's a plug. It plugs in the wall like a blender. There's a water line, and there's a drainage line. That's it. That's all there is. Take those all out. Dishwasher has a little thing underneath. It's like this big. You look at it, there's nothing here. What could be broken? I take the drainage line outside, and I put the garden hose at one end of it and spray with the high pressure water, and all this gook just comes out of it. Just this mucky, just gross, disgusting. I don't know what it was. It'd been in that hose for 2 years, whatever it was. And it just flushed out all over the patio. And I was like, well, maybe that's the problem. And I turned the hose around, did the other side of it till the water ran clean, plugged it all back in, dishwasher worked. And that started my fire, man, because that's what gave me that sense of fulfillment of making a difference, that I was capable of changing for the whole family. We now have a working dishwasher. Right. And that's what set it all off, just that.
Now, how do you go from fixing a dishwasher to wanting to build computers your whole life?
Well, in the 1980s, let's call it 1980. So I was born and raised in Detroit. And while I was there, from about 10 to 12 years old, I was delivering the newspaper. And the thing was, I wanted some stuff. I wanted a stereo. And my parents said, if you want a stereo, go get a job. My parents never had any chores for me to do. If I wanted to make a little money around the house, I could say, hey, Mom, is there something I can do to make $5 and mow the lawn? In fact, my mom would say, if you ever want to make money around here, there's laundry to do, there's floors to mop. I'll keep you busy all day. There's no shortage. And I'll pay you $5 for this and $10 for that. But I wasn't required to do chores. So I decided I'm going to go get a paper route. And so I did the paper route, and I did the collection, and the money was mine, and I could spend it however I wanted to. This is how I was raised. Let's say I was 10 years old. So when we came out to Phoenix, I was 12. This is 1980. I got a job delivering the newspapers, stuck to what I knew, and bought my first computer. And that computer was a TRS-80 Model 1. And I used it to connect to bulletin board systems. And the reason I even knew about it is a neighbor of mine had like an Apple computer, and I saw his. I think that's how I learned about it. And in high school, in computer science class, we had like a Commodore PET and an Apple II. And we were learning coding and stuff like that on those. So from the Model 1, I bought it used. There was this old man who had a place in downtown Phoenix, like a house, just wall to ceiling of junk, a little bit of everything. And I remember I was with, I think at the time it was a boyfriend of my mother's or something, and he took me over there, and he saw this guy, and this guy was really, really old. And he's like, well, you better hurry up and buy this before this guy dies. Don't wait too long. Anyway, so we bought it. I got online. I'm making friends online because I wasn't good at making friends in real life. No self-confidence, no self-esteem. Didn't like to look people in the eye, that kind of thing. And then what I wanted was to spend more time playing games. And the Atari 2600 just didn't cut it. It wasn't anything like real Pac-Man, not even close. But the Atari 400, that one was very, very similar to the arcade. And I couldn't afford to keep spending all the money at the arcade. So then my next computer was an Atari 400. And then I had a couple of Ataris after that, 800XL, 130XE. And while other people were getting Commodores, I was the Atari guy. Other people are drinking Pepsi. I'm the Coca-Cola guy, And then that led to my first IBM compatible PC around 1989, 1990. And it was because of a game. I always thought that the Apple wasn't a very good game machine. And I always felt that the IBM compatible was not the graphics were just terrible. Till I saw Wing Commander, and I had to have it. So thanks to Wing Commander, a friend of mine built me the computer. And the first thing I wanted to do with it was to go on the BBS, because I hadn't been on the bulletin board system in a while, to see if my old friends were still there. And the modem wouldn't dial out. And I tried calling my friend. He's not answering his phone. So this brand new computer, I haven't even had it a couple hours. I open it up, and inside there's a circuit board, there's wires and everything. And I see where the line plugs into the back of the modem. So I see the card. This card must be the modem because that's where the phone is plugged in. I'm just reverse engineering. And I see the modem has a ribbon cable plugged on to the COM port on the motherboard. And I take it off and I look at it and I go, it looks like this can go on the other way. Like I don't see any key. I don't see any way to prevent it from going. Anyway, I flipped it around, pushed it in, modem dialed and worked, and here we are.
Here we are.
These little bits of successes where nobody around me believed that I had any capability or skill. There was nobody encouraging me to do this. I wanted to get online. I wanted to play games. And that's what led those early successes, me figuring it out on my own, led me to where I am today. And that's how it all started.
All right. So I have a question that I'm not sure other people would know, at least in our space, that I want to ask you. But before we do, let me take a little quick break here and thank our sponsors for the show. And of course, I mentioned that our show is tonight, my live stream. I don't have my glasses, so this will be fun. Our live stream is presented by our good friends over at ThreatLocker. If you're looking for a smarter way to lock down your IT environment, ThreatLocker helps you control exactly what runs on your network, blocking threats before they can do damage. It's simple, effective, and it gives you peace of mind that your systems are secure. And check them out at the link in the show notes. And tell them Uncle Marv sent you over. And then I also want to give a shout out to our technology sponsors. NetAlly makes troubleshooting and testing, makes network troubleshooting and testing fast and precise, helping IT pros solve problems before they become headaches. And our friends over at OneStream, the unified communications and contact center platform built specifically for MSPs and IT providers. And a quick shout out to our travel sponsor, TrueGuard, for providing secure remote access, and our digital sponsor, Designer Ready, for keeping my website looking sharp. And then a quick shout out to the folks that give us monthly donations to keep us going. Tom Bull, Jason Miller, and Jason Percival. So thank you all for your contributions to the show. So Carey, one of the things that I did not know, so I knew that you were on a radio show called Computer America.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you did have a job working for, was it the utility company there in Arizona? You did
both
that.
of them. They had the two big ones here.
Yeah. What I did not know is that you wrote a book called The Healthy PC.
Well, that's what got me the radio show job.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask about that. So that book, let me first start with what led you to write that book?
Yeah, I'm going to try and make my answers shorter because these stories, I try to be complete. But essentially, I don't know how I can keep this short. I was on Reddit looking to solve a networking problem I was having. No, it wasn't Reddit. It was.
I was going to say there was no Reddit back then.
No, news groups.
CompuServe or AOL or something.
No, it would have been alt dot.
Okay, yeah, okay. The alt,
something dot. You know what I'm talking about. Right?
Yep.
They're still out there today. For news groups. Anyway. Once I figured out, with the help of others and a lot of nonsense, once I finally found somebody who knew what they were talking about, solved the problem. And while I was waiting for my answer, I saw other people asking questions that I knew the answer to or had seen just answered, and I would notice a lot of the same questions came up. So I wrote a little FAQ. I just opened up Word or something and started keeping track of the common questions and the answers. And eventually I would just copy and paste that to anybody's question. Just here's everything right here. Your question is in here. And this led to a lot of controversy because I was taking the steam out of a lot of people are like, hey, I was going to give them an answer. And you just pretty much copied and pasted my answer to somebody else. How dare you play? I don't want to go down that path. It's a big argument. bottom line is this guy was writing a book and he said, I'm writing a networking book and I came across all these questions and answers about solutions to the most common problems people are asking about networking. Can I publish that in my book? One thing led to another. It got published as like an appendix or something. And the publisher said to me, would you be interested in being a technical editor for another book we're working on with a different author? The author was writing in a way that I couldn't. I'm like, I love the idea of being the technical editor, but not for this guy. Like whatever he's doing is, it's bad. And they said, well, how bad? And I said, well, I'm not an author, but I could write a book better than this. And they said, well, what would you say if we made you the author and then he became your technical editor? Oh, I'm sure that'll work out fine. So that's what we did. And the guy was professional. And so the book got published and then they didn't really do anything to promote it. I'm like, why did I spend 9 months of my life writing this? And then it's like publish and move on. No. So what I decided to do is I was involved with a lot of computer clubs back in the day. And I said, I'm going to go self-promote this. I'm going to present myself to the computer clubs as their speaker, and I'll buy a box of books and bring them and sell them myself. 14,000 books later, I mean, I did a tour of Ventura County and Los Angeles County in California. I stayed with my mom when she lived out there in Huntington Beach for a month and just scheduled them all back to back to back to back to back. I did Phoenix, Las Vegas. There's at least 60 at the time, 60 computer clubs in Phoenix. And I kept running out of books. And one of the things I did to promote the book was I did a couple radio shows. And one of those radio shows was Computer America. I'd like to come on and promote my book. After the interview, and I promoted my book, they said, hey, we're looking for a co-host. And we're interviewing a couple people. What would you think about that? Being the co-host for 5 nights a week, 2 hours a night. I'm like, I'm not a co-host. I'm not a radio personality. It sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. So that's how that all started.
All right, there you go.
That's as short as I could make that story.
That was fine.
A lot of things just sort of happened.
Yeah.
And I just was like, yeah, I'll do it.
Well, that's kind of the way things were for us back in the day. You just did things. You fell into industries. You kind of realized what you were good at and did it. And people.
I'm not a writer.
No,
I'm not a radio show guy. But yet, does it sound like I could do it? With the writing, there were editors that could clean up my writing. You'd have no idea I wrote that. It's very well done. But with the radio show, I cringe when I hear myself do that stuff. I'm not good at it. So I was grateful to have the experience. And the more experience I got, the better I got. But even now, it's a struggle for me to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I know that there was an update to the book, but if you had to write that today, how do you think it would go? Would it be much different?
I don't think it's necessary today. You have to remember, when I wrote that, we're talking Windows 95, 98.
Yeah, and
millennium. So people were having a lot of blue screen driver related defrag. What is this? What is it? A lot of things that needed to be explained are more or less common knowledge today. But back then, and especially with the heavy adoption very early on to get on the internet or to use Napster and all this other stuff, understanding files and folders, what all that means, what's Java, that all needed to be explained to people. Today, I think a lot of it it's sort of, especially as younger people now are becoming the older people, they grew up with it.
Yeah.
But
it's so much simpler too. Back then, when, like you said, we were building our PCs, you had a modem that you had to put in and configure.
Yeah.
You don't have that today. Even if you had, You had the comms for the keyboard and mouse. You had,
IRQs,
separate IRQs. You had separate video cards.
extended and expanded memory.
Yeah. And then you had the little turbo boost command that you write in the batch code to, really speed it up. And the turbo switch on the front of the PC to make a 486 go from DX33 to DX66.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And so a lot of that just doesn't exist anymore. A lot of it's very much now what we used to tease and call plug and pray because it never quite worked. It pretty much works, and Windows is self-healing for the most part. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, because you're working with businesses, but my consumer side of things is pretty much dried up. We're not dealing with bad hard drives anymore. We don't really see bad power supplies as often as we used to. Manufacturing's all been automated, so there's not people sitting down with soldering irons much these days in the factories. The robots do everything the same. They don't have a bad mood or a sick day. Everything comes out with consistent quality, and all the problems that we used to have, we don't have those problems anymore.
Well, we have different problems. We have internet drive-by downloads and people opening, malware and email and sending wire transfers and that sort of stuff.
Are you seeing much of the virus and malware activity in your line of with your clients?
So I'll be honest, I see some, not as much as others. There are people that see them a lot because if people don't get the protection they need, whether it's the spam filters, but again, our sponsor of the show, ThreatLocker, prevents a lot of that because people can't just download and install what they want, which was a big problem 10 years ago.
I was going to say that was a problem, but I'm saying, is it really still?
Yeah, it's still a problem.
But the scale of it.
The scale is different, but it still happens, and when it happens big. It's on the news. A municipality goes down because of a bad patch or something like that. So the scale is much different. Back when it was what was it? It wasn't the happy virus. What was the one that popped up on the screen in an office, and it was the smiley face virus? I forget the name of that.
There's so many viruses. There's been so many famous ones too. What comes to mind would be like a bad update, like the CrowdStrike event. But that's, how often does that happen? When's the last time we've seen a Windows update universally sort of take down a whole bunch of businesses? As much as you hear online people talking about not trusting Windows updates, I don't know about you, but the last time I've seen a serious problem with Windows updates has been a couple of years. And I grab the updates immediately. What are your feelings on that?
I don't grab them immediately. Because I'm still of the mindset that let's wait a couple of days. Let's see if there's anything that pops up. There have been a couple of updates that, all of a sudden will disable USB drivers.
When was the last time you experienced an update that caused a problem that you or one of your clients experienced?
Probably 2 or 3 years ago.
So it's PTSD at this point.
Yeah.
So you'll say, I'd rather risk what this update prevents than do the update and maybe risk what the update causes.
It depends on the update. Now, if it's a 0-day patch where it's like it is known to fix a vulnerability, that's different.
I don't even read them. I just hit apply all.
Yeah, see, I don't. I go through and I approve. I've got a thing where I go in and I will manually schedule those updates. And part of the reason that I do it this way too is it prevents the end users from downloading and installing their own updates and surprising me with an issue. Whereas if I know that I'm installing these updates and I know that there's a potential problem, at least I'm ready.
Yeah, I mean, I laugh at it because I feel like I'm Evel Knievel over here. I set it to auto update, do it at night, let the employees leave their computers on. Nobody will know. And if they call me, they'll call me. And if they don't, they don't. But that's been standard for me, and I haven't had any reason to change it. Now, we've had a couple little security changes that the updates caused. File preview doesn't work to look at PDF files and documents in the file preview on the NAS.
That was a fun one.
But, you know, once you're aware of it, it's really, what do? Do you just say, well, never mind the security, let's just avoid that update? That doesn't work for me either.
No,
so
you don't avoid it. You just have to, I like to educate them and say, hey, this is going to happen. You know, I know about it. I can't fix it until the next update or until something or whatever. So I'd rather, you know, pre-educate than to be bombarded at, you know, 7 o'clock in the morning with emails and phone calls and that sort of stuff.
That's my biggest fear.
Because, you know, in the business world, you know, everything's got to happen right now.
That's right.
If I'm not working at 7 o'clock, you better be here by 7:30.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And if you've got 2 clients or 3 clients at the same time with the same problem because of an update, and there's only one of me, right? Yeah. That's my biggest nightmare. But I can't. Life is messy and life is chaotic, and no matter what we do for preventive measures, there is such a thing as taking it too far. This has always been my struggle, is identifying, I kind of picture it as a pendulum. And the pendulum is let's do nothing until it breaks, be reactive and panic. And the pendulum swings the other way and says, let's spend more time trying to prevent problems than if the problems would even happen, would take to resolve. Because that's too far the other way. So I'm trying to always find the middle where that pendulum's swinging between reactive, I still call it proactive, but to a limit. Like at some point when we're trying to prevent a common likely problem versus an uncommon and unlikely problem. Like nothing bothers me more than somebody's talking about, well, right now, I'll give you one. I'm sure you've heard of the anxiety online from end users who are worried about their boot certificate expiring in Windows.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And do you know what the fix for that is?
Actually, I don't. I didn't look into it.
Leave it alone. It's nothing for you to worry about. It'll take care of itself. Microsoft will update the computers. And if and when, in the unlikely event that you don't get the update for some reason and you have secure boot turned on, if all the stars align perfectly, then your system will boot. You're going to call me and I'll take care of it for you. But instead, I got a bunch of people going, you know, the boot certificates are going to expire. What am I going to do? Windows 10 is going to expire. It's 2022. I go, yeah, it's going to expire in 2025. So why are we talking about this? Well, what am I going to do? My computer's not Windows 11 compatible. Why are we talking about this 3 years ahead of time? Why don't you give me a call when that day happens? I'll be here. And I'm not trying to dismiss people, but I'm dismissing people. Like, can I fix a problem you actually have in the real world? Is there something, not your friend, not what you read online, is there a problem you are experiencing right now or recently that I can help you with? Otherwise, I cannot help you. It's so frustrating sometimes. And this is one of them. And then, you know, you've got all this misinformation. Windows 12, there's no Windows 12. But there's these, no. Well, Windows updates killing SSD. No, it isn't. But Tom's Harbor post, it's a hoax. They fell for it.
Yeah.
They go, yeah, but these people online, I go, did your SSD fail? No. Have your SSD ever failed? No. Well, when a Windows update causes your SSD to fail, you let me know and I'll help you. This is so absurd. So I'd say that's really frustrating right now is this, I call it technochondria.
Oh, yeah.
And they want to know, how do we prevent it? How do we stop it? How do I keep it from happening? Well, you can't prevent everything. Just take reasonable steps and don't worry about what somebody else's problem is. They're probably using their computer in a way that you are not, and they're having a problem nobody else is having. But what about all these people? I go, well, where is it, do you see in the news that all these corporations are having SSDs die from Windows updates, because if Ford Motor Company can't operate their factory because of Windows Update killed the SSDs in the factory, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a big lawsuit. It's not going to be on Twitter, from some guy in Japan. It's going to be major corporations shouting and screaming and throwing lawsuits because of financial losses.
And
so just because you read something online, look at the world around you. How has that impacted your ability to have your electricity delivered to your house or buy groceries at the grocery store? Are you still doing all that? You don't think they're getting Windows updates? I mean, why are there two different sets of rules? So in any event, that's been really, really frustrating for me. And I don't know the cure for it. All I tell people is, if you're actually having a problem, you yourself personally, if you have an experience that is challenging, I can help you with it. But if you're just reading things online and you, there's a scene do you remember the movie Airplane?
I do.
And there's a scene in the movie where he says, some of the food that we've given out may have been tainted. And if you start feeling a fever, and then they, pan to the people sitting in the plane, and they're like, oh, I feel warm. And if you start sweating and if you're coughing, and then people start coughing, it's like subconsciously feeding into this. And I'm trying to push back on it. And I'm trying to have people take a deep breath. Let's talk about what's going on with you. Don't worry about what's going on with everybody else.
Yeah.
And that has been a part of being a tech that I never thought was part of the job. Like, it wasn't before.
No, it wasn't. But, because of the internet, because of, the water cooler type discussions, we have to be part psychologist, because people will forward us that are, instead of using reasonable deduction, they'll forward us an email saying, hey, is this legit?
I don't mind that.
So
I don't mind if they ask. What I don't want is them telling me.
Gotcha.
I just thought you should know this is a problem. No, it isn't. But yes, and I encourage them. I go, if you're not sure if something's real or not, I'm more than happy. It doesn't bother me for you to ask.
Yeah. Send it to me. I'll let you know. That works.
If you've got a thing that says Malwarebytes wants an update or something, and you're not sure if it's real, don't click on it. Just call me right then and say, is this okay for me to click on? I don't know. Let me log in remotely. Let me take a look. It's a 5-minute call versus a 3-hour repair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Speaking of, I wanted to get this in real quick. Not that they pay me or anything, but do you know what this is?
Let me get my screen bigger so I can see. I don't have my glasses. Is that a POE? No.
Could.
It looked like it was, or is it? Are those USB or?
I have an HDMI cord. I have a USB cord.
Actually, let me do this. Make you the.
Let me unravel these cables here. And on the back, we have a RJ11 and an RJ45. And what we can do is, if I grab an Ethernet cable, and they do make these with Wi-Fi too, but this one isn't one of those. We can plug our Ethernet cable in, and then the other two cables, one is USB and one is HDMI. And if I plug it into USB.
Oh, is that a extender?
This is called an IPKVM. And what this allows me to do is gain access. This is a small computer. Think of this like a Raspberry Pi. It isn't, but it's very similar. So what I do is I connect this to a computer I want to control. And on my local area network, I open a browser, no software, just the browser, go to the IP address on the screen. I log into this, which then transfers keyboard, mouse, and the video output of whatever I plugged it into my browser window. And then if I want to, I can configure this through GitHub with Tailscale or something like that, or this is JetKVM, they have their own cloud. and then you set up an account there, and then you bond this to that, and then I can access this from anywhere in the world. No subscription fee. You pay for it once, 1080p, pretty fast. When I drag the mouse around, the downside to this is it replaces your computer monitor. So this isn't really for the terms of like desktop support, but let's say you had a server or a computer over at my other studio. I have my computer on 24/7 with this plugged into it. And I can log into it at any point in time, and I don't have to use any software. I just log into, in this case, it's app.jetkvm.com. It's all free. I need a password to sign in. I need a password also to sign into the computer, and it's all VPN encrypted. And then because that computer has 2 monitor outputs, I just duplicate the monitor output, and my monitor at the other studio is just turned off, but it's plugged in with a duplication going to this one. And I have instant access from anywhere in the world, even on anything that can open a browser, a tablet, a phone, doesn't matter. Just type in the IP address and, or in my case, log into Tailscale, and I'm logged in. Now they do have more expensive units that have video pass-through, so you can put this in a chain, and they're also made wirelessly for a little bit more money. This is about $100. Buy it once, use it for life, and never pay any subscription. Now, the primary purpose that I have it and why I'm so enthused about it is I like this to be my workbench here. And I work a lot with mini PCs. So I get a mini PC, and the first thing I want to do is I want to update all the missing Windows updates. It takes a long time. I'm not going to sit here waiting for things to update. I got other things to do. But this is a 2-story house. I go upstairs and I wonder how that update's doing. I go downstairs, I walk all the way around back here, and I look at my screen and, oh, it's not done yet. Or I forget it's running. I come downstairs to go to the kitchen. I go, oh yeah, I forgot I was running updates. Anyway, I just plug this into the mini PC. And then I use the laptop upstairs, and I just open the browser window and I stay signed into it. If it wants to restart, I can get into the BIOS.
Okay, so that's the first time you've said something that made me interested, because a lot of what you were saying is there's a lot of free ways to get remote access to a system.
Yeah, let me grab keep talking. I'm going to grab a computer.
That's okay. But now that you've said it connects to the BIOS, that actually sells it. Because otherwise, granted, RMM software is not free. A lot of help desk software is not free, but there is a lot of free ways to get remote access to a system on a network, that sort of thing. So you didn't have me at free, you had me at BIOS.
I'll keep that in mind. Let me demonstrate it, because maybe if you see the way it works. So I've just got a mini PC here, pretty nice one, by the way. And again, none of this is promotion. I'm just enthusiastic about some of this stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug HDMI in where the monitor normally goes. And then I'm going to plug USB, any USB port.
Yep.
Now, I don't have this configured for Wi-Fi, so I do need to give this, they don't share the internet, so I need this one to have its own internet.
Yeah.
So I'm standing probably on
the Ethernet cable that you just had up there?
Well, I have 2. For just such an occasion, I have numbered my feathers. Okay, here we go. And then I just need a standard power cable here. So another one I'm standing on that will give it power. Okay? That easy. That's all I've got. 4 cables. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
Make sure my power supply is turned on. Let's hit the power button here. Now, this will be fun because I'm going to do something in OBS that should work here in StreamYard. Let's see if this works.
Okay.
I'm going to change to my, how do I want to do this? I'm going to change to my window capture, which means I'm not going to be able to see you. But let's go to window capture, and it should pull up my Google. Yeah, you can see that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I need to type in the IP address for this unit, which is displayed on its screen. And it says, now this is just on my local area network, okay, 192.168.68.67. Now I've configured this to not require me to have a password. Some of the units don't let you do that, but I appreciate that I don't have to enter a password. Right. So this is my desktop of the computer I just set up. You notice there's 2 mice. Do you see 2 mice?
Yes.
Okay, so the one that's trailing is the little computer. Now check this out. Let's go start, shut down, restart. Now this is normally where your remote software will disconnect you.
Right.
And what I'm going to do, and you never saw me hook up a keyboard and mouse to this mini PC. I'm using the only keyboard and mouse on this desk. And if the computer, when it's rebooting, if it cuts off USB, then the device itself, the little KVM, has to reboot. And then I'll start pressing delete. If you look in the bottom left, it says keys and it says delete. You see down here, it says keys. It's indicating which keys I'm pressing. I can go to set up the BIOS, just as though I were sitting in front of this machine. Then up here, I've got a bunch of options like pasting text, loading. So say I want to reinstall Windows, I can set up virtual Windows ISO image and tell the computer to boot to that right off of the space available on the KVM, like a flash drive. I can have the computer shut off and then wake it back up, so I don't have to leave the computer on 24/7. I can set up a virtual keyboard. If there's some keys that I'm having some conflict with the local machine and the remote machine, I can just do this and pull the remote keyboard up. There's other settings we can play with here. You know, $100. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, let's hit escape. You want to exit without saving? No, I don't want to do that. Let's get rid of this keyboard, which is, I don't want to get rid of the keyboard. Just click that again. If I want to go full screen, check this out. Now it looks like I'm on the computer. You would never even see the browser tab. Let's save and exit. Discard changes and exit. Now it boots up as though it's on your own monitor. Now I can press escape, put it back in the browser window. If I want to, I can open another browser tab. Are you not entertained? I lost audio.
No, you didn't.
There you are. What do you think?
That works.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. There you go.
So anyway, I can go upstairs. I can do all the Windows updates, all the driver updates. I can run my optimizer. I can configure the machine the way I've configured thousands of them without having to sit here. I do it all from upstairs. And when I'm done, I shut the computer off. And then when I come downstairs, I just unplug the cables, put the computer away, put the next one up. I can do so many. I do 3 or 4 a day now instead of maybe 1 a night because I keep forgetting to go, and I don't want to keep going up and down the stairs. And that's just using on my local area network. Now, if I want to sign into Studio A right now, I just open the browser tab and it's there waiting for me to sign in.
Cool.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
I really should get paid to promote these.
You'll figure it out.
But this is called a Jet KVM, but they've got a lot of competition, Nano KVM, Comet KVM, Pico KVM, and they're right around $100. So if you find that could be useful in the way that you run your support or for your own personal use, it's great, especially with headless devices, servers, and things like that, where you normally have some kind of a crash cart.
Yeah.
And I love, to me, the big seller is no subscriptions. It just works. And,
yeah, absolutely.
I just think there's not enough awareness about these for people in our industry. I'm doing my part.
Yeah. Let's do this. We've gone over our normal time, but I want to keep the conversation going. So let me put the screen up here one more time. If you are watching this video, just stay with us. I'm going to go ahead and end off the actual audio podcast. And I want to first say thank you to Carey for coming on the show and hanging with us and sharing some history and sharing now a new cool gadget that we can go learn from. Let's see. Logistically, there will be other shows. Again, I told you coming from Threat Locker Zero Trust World. I think I've got about 4 more episodes coming there. We've got live shows happening every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, for at least the next 8 weeks or so. I have at least 1, maybe 2 shows coming up where I will be doing conference recaps and talking about swag, because I've not done that from any of the conferences. So we'll talk about some of the gadgets and clothing and stuff. We've got some shirts going into the rafters. We've got hats going onto the hat wall, and we've got pens to review and a whole bunch of stuff. So I will have a couple of swag things that we'll talk about. I know some of you are waiting for that, but that will probably be in another week or so. I'm just getting reacclimated to being back at the office and working on stuff. If you found the show helpful or useful, I don't know, whatever you do on the YouTube, like, share, all that stuff in the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to your favorite podcatcher. If you're not subscribed, you can head over to the website, itbusinesspodcast.com. Find the app that works best for you. Go back and check out some older podcasts and relive. And I can't relive all 10 years of the IT Business Pro podcast. I was thinking of Podnuts Pro. That was the original name of this show way back in the day. But you'll see some of those shows there as well. But for now, we are going to sign off the audio portion. Again, if you are here with us, stay through the video and we will continue on. But that's going to do it, folks. Thank you for checking out the show. We'll see you soon. Until next time, holla.
Well, I'm glad I got that in on the main show.
Yeah, that was pretty
Although
cool.
I guess on the radio side, they can't see anything, but.
No, but they'll know to hop over and see the video, because the show notes will have a link to the video page, so they'll know to hop over. And plus, since we've told people to stay afterwards, they'll know that, oh, they're still going. Let me check it out. So let's see. We still got some people hanging with us here. Got the LinkedIn and the YouTube and the Facebook. How are things going for you over on the YouTube? I know that YouTube's changed a lot. I've not really pushed to make my channel big. I just stay with the podcast and with the communities that I'm involved in. I know that you do a lot more YouTube stuff because it was bringing in money and helping you not have to do so much computer work, but things have changed. The algorithm has certainly modified itself, I guess.
Yeah, it's not a creator's friend anymore.
Yeah.
And I think we can thank TikTok for the short attention span and the, you talk about something else that's changed. We used to fast forward through short form content. It was called commercials, and we'd buy a TiVo that would do it for us. Now people want the commercials. They, why is your video 2 hours long? Because we're teaching, we're educating, we have a community and we want to interact with you. I got time for that. I don't have time to make friends or get to know anybody or actually learn anything. Just tell me what I want to know and leave.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good way to build community. So I'm not a fan of the new doom scrolling, where you go, what did you just watch? What? You've been scrolling on your phone. Yeah. Name one video you just watched. I don't know.
Yeah, I watch the cat videos.
Well, that's a staple of YouTube, but you can never go wrong with cat videos. Even today, they do well. In fact, you want to watch a funny one. Speaking of Marv, there's a cat named Merv.
Yeah.
Check out Merv.
Merv on the YouTube.
Yeah, just YouTube Merv, and it's hilarious. Don't do it now because you'll be doom scrolling.
Merv the cat
Merv
and Chad.
and yes, and Chad. That's right. hmm
Wow.
They're very well done and hilarious. But that being said, yeah, the YouTube's tough right now financially as a business. It's advertisers have decided that YouTube's not worth the rates that YouTube was charging.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the advertisers say we're going to go away, and YouTube's like, don't leave us. And they say, well, we'll stay, but instead of paying you $1, we'll give you 10 cents. That's fine, you know. And so 90% of revenue went away. 90%. What I made 4 years ago on YouTube is 90% more than I make on YouTube today. So when it would make sense for me to build a computer and show it off, that computer build would earn me a couple $100. Today, that same computer build that may cost $1,000 or $1,500 in parts, not to mention all the equipment and microphone and internet and lighting and everything I've got into it. Let's even just take that out of the equation. Just to have the parts and make a video, maybe a 2-part video. Maybe I get 2 videos out of this, and each video is 2 to 3 hours long. Those 2 videos combined in 30 days, where they will make the most amount of money, will total somewhere about $40. And so if you're doing 5 videos a week and you can bring in $200, but the cost of making those videos is $2,000, how long are you going to stay in business? So then it's like, okay, well, I'll show people how to do repairs, but those have dried up. I'll show people how to fix Windows networking problems. I don't like everything's kind of working.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the best you could hope for. And then with the advent of AI, a lot of questions that I don't know the answers to, if the audience says to me, what do you think about this new thing? And I'm like, what are they even talking about? I'll just tell them, I don't know what you're talking about. Let me go ask AI. Well, they could have just done that themselves, right? And I think people are figuring this out. Like, we don't need Carey to answer our questions anymore, unless they just want my opinion on something. And then, you know, you get what you deserve.
Yeah.
So, you know, AI is just another way of outsourcing tech support. When I was first started in this business, they were just starting to outsource tech support to India, Pakistan, Philippines. And now AI is even cheaper than that. So now even the people in India and Pakistan and Philippines are going to start getting replaced for doing those, what would you call that, entry-level support calls?
Yeah. So I had my first client Monday asked me to create an email account for Stan, who is his AI agent. And he has hired Stan to do a lot of his work, which I don't know. He's a property manager for real estate and stuff like this. So I'm assuming that Stan is going to be doing all of their paperwork, you know, that they used to do. I don't know if he had staff that did it or whatever, but he's all abuzz about Stan.
Is he paying like an agency, or did they create? When you say they hired Stan, is that their own in-house hire?
I think, yeah. Well, I think what they did. So there's these websites now where you can hire an AI agent that will be your secretary, your marketing, you know, all of these things. So I think he just got one of those.
So he's paying for it.
He's paying for it.
Okay.
I'd be paying $40 a month, $100 a month, or whatever.
Mhm.
But now Stan, his AI agent, has an email address that is a part of their company.
How do you feel about that?
Well, right now, that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is if they start trying to use their AI agents to do their own support. That's where I'll kind of have to see how it works. For a lot of the stuff that I do, AI we're building it into our stack. And when I say we, meaning the vendors that I use are building AI into their tools and stuff. So hopefully that will allow us to do the things and not encourage customers to go out and try to figure it out themselves. Unless they're like one company who their monthly bill is, $6,000 and they're like, how can we pay you less? Can't we have AI do some of this for us? But if they're thinking that AI is going to do their cybersecurity for them, I'm like, no, that's not what you want.
Well, that is putting a lot of faith in the technology to protect you against itself, essentially.
Yeah.
I've been sort of impressed that not every client, the majority of my clients are using AI on their own without ever bringing it up to me. I happen to be on site, and I said they were doing something that they do a lot, like in the lawyers, they do a lot of correspondence. And I said, have you thought about ever using AI? They said, what do you mean thought about it? We run all of our correspondence through AI and have it rewrite the emails for it. And we'll do that 3 or 4 or 5 times before we send it.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow. I said, a lot of times when I answer people in email, I'm very curt. I'm quick. Sometimes it comes off as like you're bothering me or I'm in a mood. I'm just trying to get you the answer fast. Go. So I found if I just take a minute, put it in AI and say, would you just rephrase this so it sounds professional, add a little levity to it, and then I'll proofread it, and usually it's copy and paste, and off it goes. Yeah, and they say the same thing, that the lawyers are like, right, better than we do.
Yeah, that is okay. I'm not worried about that. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the law firms. Like I've got one law firm where the main partner thinks that they can just take all of their case information, throw it into AI, and have AI prepare them for court. And I'm like, I don't think you want to do that just yet. You've got to go through and check because AI lies. And that case that AI referenced, you better make sure it's even related to your case, and all of that stuff. Because there have been instances where, attorneys have gone into court with an AI prepared brief that is incorrect. And I think that's the downside, where I think we've adopted some things a little too fast. And humans
I've seen
have
a story
stopped.
in the news at least a half dozen times about what you just said, or even where the courthouse themselves were using it.
Yeah.
That's a problem I think the courts need to solve. Do you ever forward this guy like the email stories of the examples of the lawyers that brought false information?
Yeah, we've talked about it. So yeah, we've talked about it, and there is some of the big legal companies, Thomson Reuters, LexisNexis, they are doing some AI enhanced things within their software. So there's some guardrails legally from that. So I'm encouraging them to stay in that lane because you have some protection. If you take your information and put it into LexisNexis and let Lexis then go through and do all the AI research for you and stuff and spit it out, you've got a very high reasonable chance that that's going to be correct.
You probably also have a point of, I want to say liability, or somebody you can hold accountable. If it's inaccurate, you can take them, ironically, you could take them to court, right? You could hold them accountable. If you're doing it yourself, I don't know about you, but if you're anything like me, what you learned early on about computers is you never trust a computer for very long. If you set something to back this computer up every Saturday at 3 p.m., you can't just walk away from it and never check and see, has this thing been updating? Is it, you have to audit, you have to babysit. Now, I can't tell you how often you're going to have your level and I'm going to have my level. I'll let it go for maybe 2 months, but I'll be checking it probably monthly. Logs aren't good enough for me. I want evidence. I want to see the backup run. I want to see the results, and hopefully everything's fine. If I tell a router at my clients to auto update, I still log into that router at least twice a year and check for updates to ensure, because guess what? Sometimes it says, oh, you're missing an update from 4 months ago. I'm like, this was supposed to, like, ignorance is bliss. So whether it's AI, if it's any sort of automation, it has to be automated. You cannot, it has to be audited. You cannot set it and forget it. This isn't a rotisserie chicken. It really needs babysitting. And if you refuse to do it, you're the one that will pay the consequences. It's your problem, not mine. But do you find that? Do you agree with me? Like, you just can't trust.
Absolutely. Yeah,
it's never been any different back in 1991 or today.
I say this: it's no different than when we started doing scripts, and you've got to go in and check and verify that the script runs correctly. And we would go for sometimes weeks or months, and all of a sudden we'd be like, well, why isn't this updated? I ran the script. Well, something changed, and the script doesn't auto update itself, to work with every single system. So you've got to go through and check. You mentioned backups. We actually, now I haven't had to do it as much, but one of the things that is starting to become an issue with cyber insurance is that not only do we have to, log and verify that the backups are being done, we've actually got to, at least I saw an application just last week, they want us to monthly go in and verify that you can recover from that backup. So it's something where I think that that's going to be something that we still have to deal with for quite some time. We are going to have to, like you said, audit and verify things for quite some time.
I love that. I think that's great that they want to do that. We have a word for that. We call it a fire drill. We want to run a fire drill. We don't want to wait till fire to find out where the exits are, right? We want to know how to get out of this building. And from time to time, we want to practice that.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing. As far as I'm concerned, that should have been the case right from day one.
Yeah, it is. But, when did I do my last? I did a restore last month, and I had only set the backup up a couple of months prior. We're talking about a full server backup, and the server failed, and I had to restore it to a virtual machine. And like I said, it had only been up a couple of months. I did an initial restore test when I first set it up, but hadn't done one since. And those 20 minutes waiting for that server to come up.
You have any fingernails left?
Just agony. Just agony.
I'm assuming it worked because you're smiling.
Yeah, it came up. I mean, I don't have the logs to always send on success, which is, a debate that everybody has is, I want to see the logs every night.
I don't believe the logs.
I want the logs to send me when it doesn't run or it partially updates, so I have it send on a failure or, it didn't run.
No news is good news.
Right.
Unless, of course, there's a problem and it's not sending the logs out for some reason.
Right. Which is a whole different.
Which you'll figure out after I heard from that computer in a while. Find out that the email's not authenticating anymore.
Yeah, which is why you got to wake up and check the dashboard every morning.
Well, that's why I still like to go old school, log into it remotely and just take a look. That's just me. But I also have small enough clientele that that's feasible. If I was too big, it wouldn't be practical to maintain that level of helicoptering. But not all, maybe once a month. Just make sure everything's good. And that way I'm very confident. I can tell my client, whether you have a theft or a fire, some some car careens off the road and into your building, you get a virus, your hard drives fail, you get a pissed off employee that wants to sabotage the server, I got your back. No matter what, anything you can imagine, I can cover you. And that's a bold statement. So I make damn sure that those backups are running and successful, and that they're also off-site if anything happens there. It's just the one locally is done more often and the one off-site is done less often, but they're still, within 30 days.
Yeah.
So how is business for you? Have things slowed down? Have you noticed, or picking up?
So business for me is about the same. And I say that because my clients don't change that much. My largest client went through a shrinking because the managing partner retired, and so a bunch of people left with them. But everything else is the same. I did get one new client at the end of the year, and it's just really the same treadmill, hamster wheel sort of thing.
Was that new client, was that something you sought, or was it like a referral?
It was a referral. So actually, nice. But it was a different referral. I should probably clarify that. It was a company that had acquired one of my smaller clients. So they were inside this bigger client, but I still supported the smaller client. And then the bigger client finally got to the point where they said, okay, we need to get rid of our existing person and use Marvin. There were some things that had happened. So I now have the bigger client.
Attrition.
Yes.
You love it. Oh, that's great. I had a client the opposite, where the owner wanted to retire and the children did not want to take it over, which was the plan. He was kind of surprised. He sold the business off to a bigger business that didn't need me anymore because they had their own person. But several of the employees that were let go started their own business and said, would I come work for them? So
yeah,
even Steven, I was like, cool, worked itself out.
Yeah, I have a client that left a law firm and to this day will still use me, even though she's north of Orlando now. And
that's far.
It's 3 hours.
Oh, that's far.
But it's still like, you're my guy. And I'm like, but I have people there that can help you. And she's like, that's fine.
Oh, she said that's okay?
Yeah.
Well, I guess if they're coming along with your referral and you're putting your...
Yeah, but still, I mean, I monitor that system. I help them remotely, and only if somebody has to be there do I send somebody. So.
What would you say is the most common, like as of late, reason people are calling for help? I want to compare notes.
Well, so my calls are going to be, they're going to sound similar, but for different reasons. So I get an email probably once or twice a day because, again, I put Threat Locker on all the machines so people can't run stuff. So if there's they have to. So I just approve it in Threat Locker and then boom, they're off and running. So it's not that it's like a major thing, but that's my most common thing, but it's once or twice a day.
Well, but that's self-imposed.
Yes.
Yeah. So like for me, I can't access the network drive. I can't print to this printer. Why isn't the Wi-Fi? Oh, this was a fun one. How come our Wi-Fi isn't working? Or it's kind of working. And I'm like, you guys don't have Wi-Fi. Like, yeah, we do. Like, no, you don't. Yes, we do. I go, we disconnected. We physically removed the Wi-Fi. The owner didn't want it. Yeah, but we put it back. When did you put it back? 2 years ago. two years ago. Nobody told me. So come to find out, they didn't put it back. They turned the Wi-Fi on their gateway from their ISP. And they said, yeah, we've been using it for 2 years. And I brought my laptop from home and it won't connect, but these other people's stuff, the other employees are connecting. How come it was? I'm like, hold on. I got to call the owner. What's going on over there? Like, what do you know about this? He goes, I don't know anything about it. Okay. He goes, I don't know why my employees would need Wi-Fi. That doesn't even make any sense. They don't need Wi-Fi. So I call the employees. I go, look, I talked to the boss. He says you guys don't need Wi-Fi. Do you need it? And they go, well, the clients, when they come in, it's an accounting firm. They want to bring up their phone, their tablet, their laptop to show their W-2s or their deductions, and they need guest access to the Wi-Fi for that. And since we have it, why not use it? And I'm like, oh, that's valid. So who decided to turn the Wi-Fi back on? Well, the boss is pretty hands-off, so we know around here if we want to get something done to just do it. Okay. The boss that's a nice way to say he's pretty hands-off. Yeah, he doesn't want to be involved. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you guys maybe have a hotspot? Because how many devices? Maybe you're only connecting 10 devices. No, we definitely don't have a hotspot. Well, then what do you have? Well, we don't know, but it's definitely not a hotspot. Okay. But you can only connect, it seems like 10 devices. And when you go to connect the 11th one, it's not working. It sounds like a hotspot. No, I'm telling you, it's not a hotspot. Do me a favor, call your ISP and call me back. So they call the ISP and they say, is there a limit to how many Wi-Fi devices that we can have? And the ISP says, yes, you can have 10 on the guest network. So they call me back and they say, yeah, we have AT&T and they say our limit is 10. I'm like, well, that's a hotspot. And they go, no, it's not a hotspot. I go, how did you guys turn that on? And they go, well, we have a phone app. Wait, you have a phone app that turns on the... So the ISP is charging you for every connection to the Wi-Fi that's in your building? That's a new low. Anyway, long story short, I can't access the gateway because it's on the other side of the firewall and nobody knows the password to the firewall. That was done before I got there. And if I reset it, I don't know how to put it back. So their phones may go down and I don't want to go through all that. So you have to be in the building to access the gateway. And if you bring up the phone app, you can access the gateway, but it wants location settings on to make any changes to the Wi-Fi that you have to be within range of the building, which I can't do. So I said, do me a favor, bring up your phone app, click here, click here. Do you see where it shows the Wi-Fi under advanced setting? Yes. Do you see where it says connections on the guest is 10? Yeah, change that number. Change it to like 50. Okay, now hit save. Okay, does that solve the problem? We're all fixed. Why, when they called the ISP, did the ISP not volunteer that information? Because they just literally answered their question. Is there a limit? Yes, it's 10. Okay, thank you, bye. He didn't say, oh, by the way, you can change that to whatever you want it to be. That's just the default. So that was fun. So the number of questions I get for Wi-Fi now would be an example. 20 years ago, I didn't get any questions about Wi-Fi. It didn't really exist. But now, you know, why can't I print Wi-Fi related? And I enjoy those. I mean, sometimes, and believe me, I make notes. I'm like, all right, now I know they got Wi-Fi. So I'm going to make a note on that and what we did. And I just tell them, look, you guys, when you need anything in the future, just call me. I'll take care of it. You don't need to do this stuff yourselves anymore. And we can, I don't like not having the answer when you call me with a question, because the last thing I was told, the last thing that we did is we disconnected all Wi-Fi. Nobody is giving me any information until now that that's changed. And it's making it very difficult for me to be able to help you. So from now on, just call me, and if you need Wi-Fi, I'll do it, you know.
Yeah.
And then everything goes a lot smoother. So that's a little bit of the learning curve because they're used to having do it themselves. And I'm like, just call me first. And that whole situation is difficult because the router modem is on one side of the firewall. All the computers are on the other side. So when I connect remotely, the IP address to get to the other side of the firewall disconnects me from the internet. So you'd have to physically change the IP address of a local computer in the office, which means I have to be there. And they're in California. So that's a 6-hour drive for me to go.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not easy. Now, if we had one of these, I could do it.
Yeah, you just have it on site there and have them plug it in and tell you what it is. Yeah. So we always try to take control of the internet as well. So we don't allow for their modem to be their internet connection. We put a firewall in or a gateway that we have control over, and then I've got the network monitoring devices so that if something new comes on the local network, I'll know about it. Now, it doesn't help on the other side, like you were having, if they just plug directly into the modem, they plug a Wi-Fi router into, the Comcast modem, I'll never know about it.
Gotcha.
So similar situation, to you, unless I go on site with one of my handheld testing tools and I'm scanning and I see all these different Wi-Fis and I'm like, that's new. So that's one of the reasons I do like those tools, the NetAlly stuff. I've got, and they are in my daily driver go bag. So I walk into an environment, I just turn it on and let it scan and tell me what's there.
Yeah, I had a, this is going to sound pathetic. First of all, none of my clients are that big. All right. So I go to this client and I'm trying to figure out which computer is on the switch. And there's two 24-port switches, two Netgear, unmanaged, 24-port, one above the other.
Right.
Lights are blinking. And no wolf and hound. What is it called? Hound and fox. I'm just like, I got to figure out quickly. I want to get done, right? I'm in my own hurry. Not that the client's pushing me, but I want to get done. So I want to figure out which computer this particular one is. So what I do is I take out my phone and I take a picture of the network switch. And then I go I unplug the network cable from the back of the computer, and I take another picture of the network switch and I compare the two photos to see which ones the lights were previously on and which port. And then it's like a game of, in the newspaper, they used to have what's different about these two photos. And so I would challenge anybody to see who gets there faster, you and your fancy tools, or me just,
we can do a test like that. We can do it.
I got it done and it was quick. Like I wasn't really staring at it very long. It was just sort of like bring up the photos side by side and looks like it's port 4 and verify, plug back in, 4 lights up. I'm good to go and continue my job.
Yeah, but
now if they had 100 clients, plugged in, that's not going to work, obviously.
Yeah, I don't have one here, but I can tell you the little link sprinter is the one. It's a handheld version that if you were to take that cable out of the back of the PC, you plug it in, you can actually flash the port on the switch.
So is that like a Fluke?
Yes, so these came out of the Fluke family long ago. So Fluke actually broke off into a company called NetScout and Fluke. And then they became NetAlly, and they built a complete set of network tools specifically for system admins and frontline technicians. Fluke still has their stuff for testing cables, their electrical stuff like that, but NetAlly now has all the network tools. So if I plug a device in, it's going to grab an IP address or ask for, a DHCP address, ping the gateway, ping, the internet. It can scan the network, tell me all the devices that are on the network. It can do that both, with the right tool, you can do it both wired and wireless. So that's why I say I can walk into an office and find out all the different, SSIDs that are being broadcast for that office and surrounding offices and stuff.
How much is a tool like that?
You really want to hear that?
Yeah. Approximately. I don't need an exact number.
So
4 digits?
So the linked sprinter, the little small one, is $399.
That's not bad.
So, but the ones that are above it that are what they call the link runners and the Etherscopes, Link Runner. There's a 3,000 version and a 4,000 version.
Oh.
Those are about $2,000.
Okay. For a minute, I thought you were talking about the money. Okay. But that's still like, I'd have to do a lot more work to justify that.
Yeah, for someone like you, it's probably not worth it. For me, it's very well worth it. To be able to walk into a corporate office and just quickly be able to scan all that stuff.
Oh,
And
sure
then the
it pays
Cadillac, what was that?
I'm sure it pays for itself.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's even big boys that are, 10 to 12,000, which will do all of that. Plus, you can run load tests on cables. You can actually do, port scans. You can do, I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do with some of these things, but they are expensive.
I had a dentist office that one computer would only connect at 100 megabit. Everybody else was gigabit, but this one machine. And I replaced the network card and I brought a spare patch cable. I replaced the driver. And it wasn't anything the owner was complaining about. It was something that was bothering me. I just couldn't figure this out. So every time I would be there, I would think, well, I'm there, I'm going to try something else. So I ended up bringing like a 50-foot LAN cable and just running it to a different jack to see if it's the computer or is it the jack.
Right.
And when I ran that 50-foot LAN cable and plugged it in to a computer that had I unplugged a different computer that was at gigabit, plugged this one in, it ran at gigabit. So then I knew it's not the computer. I pulled the wall jack out, looked at it. It's perfectly fine. Okay, but I don't know what port it's in the switch. So I open the wiring closet and I look in there and it's a small dental office. They might have a 16-port unmanaged switch coming out of a modem and, looping into a patch panel. And I felt like such an idiot because I'm trying to figure out, I'm looking at the lights and the lights on the switch will tell you if it's 100 megabit or gigabit. So I'm looking at every port really close, get my glasses on. And what's that lit up? Is that 100? Is that the gig? Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. And I get to the last one. And the last one is a white patch cable where the others are all yellow or blue. This is the only one that's different. And when you know it, that's also the one that doesn't have the gigabit light up and it's going from the switch to the patch panel. Where'd this come from? I unplug it and I look at it. There's 4 wires inside instead of 8. This whole time. Do I really need, this is what I asked myself, do I really need a fancy tool if I'm just paying attention? I mean, that should have been obvious. Open the wiring closet. One of these things is not like the other. Why don't we start there, Carey?
Yeah.
It was clearly a phone cable.
Yep. Sometimes it's, you're right. Do you need a fancy tool when you could just, look at it? But
scale. You got to think of scale, right? Because you're in a high-rise building in multiple floors. Good luck. Or you're dealing with, 70 plus employees and number of printers and other network devices. Yeah. So my question then would be, when you're servicing a client, like, are you making recommendations? I'm guessing you are, for what servers you're going to use, what switches you're going to use, what routers you're going to use.
The term recommendations probably isn't strong enough. It is, here's what I'm going to sell you. Option A, option B.
One or the other.
Yes. And all of them.
And I'm just curious, what are your brands of choice and why?
For switches?
All of the above.
So I am an HP shop. So our servers and computers are HP. If they are anti-HP, I will do Dell out of spite. Only because those are the 2 top brands, in my opinion, for businesses that are standard enough that some tech that comes in after me should be able to support those systems.
Great.
So that's how I do that. My switches are going to be, so I have Ingenious is one switch that I've switched to recently, and Ubiquity. So I switched over to Ubiquity in the last 18 months, and I like it. And Ubiquity is, for me, doing all of the same stuff as the Ingenious managed switches does. SonicWall is my firewall of choice.
That's on the subscription, right?
Yes, sir. Well, yes. Yeah, you pay for services in annual or multi-year payments. So you can
And
do that.
Ubiquity, are they not a vendor lock system?
Yes, they are,
Okay.
but they're not as expensive as SonicWall, but they're not as powerful as
No,
SonicWall either.
but I thought you were going to say is Ingenious, because isn't Ingenious more aggressively priced than Ubiquity?
No.
No?
Ingenious and Ubiquity are probably about the same right now. But we're talking, I order the managed switches. So I order the higher, business enterprise level stuff. So I'm not on Ubiquity beats Ingenious on the lower end by far.
Oh, I'm surprised. Okay.
But when you're dealing with the higher end, 24, 48 port managed switches, they're actually about the same price.
Ingenious sent me some stuff, and I don't really have any way to test it because I don't have any clients.
That one of their free access points.
Not just. Let me walk over here for a second. I've been trying to think of a way I can test this, and I don't really have any clients, and it's hard for me to explain to my viewers, like, what's the advantage of this when they don't have the kind of problems that a company that would require this level of equipment would have, right? It's hard for them to understand. So I'd like to demonstrate it, but I don't really have any way to demonstrate it. And so they asked me, would you like us to send you some stuff? And I like Ingenious. I've worked with them a long time, and they're great to work with. But I said, I don't really have any way to test it. They said, well, we'll send it to you anyway. You'll think of something. So they sent it to me. And every once in a while I get an email. How's that coming along? I'm like, well, I still don't have any way to test it. So a couple of things. So
Okay,
they did send
there
a
we
couple
go.
of access points. And I don't even know what they are.
Is it okay? I see.
Here's
so
one.
That looks like probably an 8-port multi-gig switch. Is that like an EWS 2512 or something?
This says it is an SD-WAN gateway.
Oh, look at you. Okay.
Is this good? Hold on. Let me get my good glasses on. Gateway 6, 8MG, 2 SFP plus.
Okay.
The tape, I'd open it up and show you, but I haven't even broken the tape. And then this one, this is a Cloud Switch L2 plus.
Yeah. So I can tell you this. The L2 plus switch will be the easiest thing for you to work with. The SD-WAN gateway, not so much, unless you have multiple internet connections, which I'm guessing you don't.
That would be a correct guess.
Yeah. So you could just set it up as a gateway and, test the internet and some of those features, but the SD-WAN portion, no good.
Have you ever done reviews of Ingenious stuff? Or do you have any interest?
So I have an access point they sent me a while ago that is on the list to be reviewed. And I have a couple of their switches that I could review. I just haven't. But would I be interested in reviewing that SD-WAN? Yes.
The reason I ask is I could put it in the mail to you.
I was going to say, do you want to do a combo or where you set it up and I send you a network tool and we can go through and do some stuff?
We could do that, or I send it to you and you make the video and maybe we can like collab as far as like being able to share that on my channel. And I can say to the folks at Ingenious, hey, I took care of your review for you, but I actually did nothing and you did all the work, but then you can keep the stuff.
All right.
I just put it out there because I don't know what to do with it. I think it's great stuff. I have no complaints with Ingenious whatsoever, but they're solving problems for clients I don't have. If I had a client that had a hotel and they needed multiple Wi-Fi points throughout multiple floors and 100 different hotel rooms, here we go.
Right.
But for my home user viewers and my small business clients, the lawyers and the dentists and the accountants, home routers are pretty much all they need, basically.
Yeah.
With maybe a managed switch or something fancy, maybe one VLAN, maybe.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to find a solution that's a win-win-win for everybody, and I was just gauging your interest on that.
All right. Well, we'll end off the show in a couple of minutes, and then you and I will talk more about that. And
because they also sent me a bunch of access points too, and PoE injectors and stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
But these are the big heavy ones. Yeah. And it looks great. Like this one I've opened up. You've probably seen one of these though, right?
The L2?
No?
Yeah.
You know what? The tape is sealed on these. Since they've arrived, they've been sitting on a shelf. They've never been opened. So, and again, you'd think that's because I didn't like them, or I just don't know how I'm going to demonstrate this. So, and what do I know? Anyway, this isn't the kind of equipment I work with. How do I even know how to test it? You do. Right. You know what to look for. You know where there may be shortcomings or where there may be, enhancements that you weren't expecting. So
I can do all that. I can throw my Net Ally tools on them as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff we can do.
Okay. Well, just plant the seed.
Okay. Nice.
And they're super great to work with. Those folks, I can't say enough good about the folks at Ingenious. I worked with them back at Newegg. Brian Slayman over there, he's been with the company way back in the day, and just have a really good working relationship with them. But unfortunately, in my line of work, I don't have much call for their stuff. But when I have a client that I manage that they hired somebody else to put in like a whole security system, and they changed they asked me, would it be okay if they changed the Wi-Fi in the office? I said, yeah, go ahead. No, that's not what he did. This guy replaced he took everything out I had and put all this Ubiquiti stuff in, and I can't get into it. The Ubiquiti stuff, and maybe, I don't know, I mean, it's above my head, but basically it wants you to log in with an app, which right there pisses me off. Then the person who set that up, the tech who installed it, cannot give me equal access. He can make me an admin, but he can't make me the owner. He has to give up ownership and transfer it to me. And in order to do that, there's a middleman, Ubiquiti, that they have to go through to make this transfer happen. So it's been years, and guess what? I don't log into it and I don't maintain it. Is that what you've got there? Is your...
Yep, that's the Unify app.
I hate that.
Not be streamed. So here's the short answer. You can access it locally, but you do have to have an account. And that person can give you...
And he created an account for me as an admin, but I'm not as I understand the phrasing was owner. It can only be one owner.
Correct.
And he can't just transfer the ownership. It has to go through Ubiquiti, and the change on their side electronically has to happen to assign it to me. Am I not understanding it, or have I got it right?
To be honest, I don't think that's the case.
It's a dream machine.
Yeah, I'm familiar. I have a couple of dream machines. So there is a manage UI account, but to be honest, I've actually not given any of my clients access because I manage it. I'll have to look into that.
So they didn't want this guy on their network. And they said, if he makes you the admin, can you remove him? So he made me the admin, but I can't remove him because he's the owner and only he can. So I was like, okay, well, you guys are going to have to work with this guy, whether you like it or not, unless he voluntarily surrenders ownership. And I said, since he knows the equipment better than me, why don't you just keep him on? And he was worried because he was friends with their son and they were fighting with their son, and he was afraid his son could kind of get into the network with his buddy. And I'm like, well, you should have just hired me to do the job. I wouldn't have put Ubiquiti stuff in here. He says, well, what would you have used? And I said, well, I would have used something more consumer based. It would have cost you probably 80% less. He goes, well, can't you just do that? I said, well, not without ripping out. He's got to have $25,000 in the cameras and the NVR and the Dream
Oh,
Machine.
we
And
kept the whole setup then. Wow.
oh, this guy went. He's a lawyer. He's got money,
So,
and yeah.
oh, we just lost the. So there were a few people still watching. I was going to say there's a lot of my listeners are Ubiquity, and they were on the Ubiquity bandwagon a long time before me. So I'm sure one of them will know. I can put the word out.
Well, if I'm remembering it correctly, I had a couple problems with Ubiquity. One was I couldn't remove this guy,
Right.
not without getting Ubiquity involved. Somehow it registers with their servers. That's as far as I went with it. The other thing was I was trying to keep an IP address from being reused, and I reserved it, and it didn't take effect. It took like 10 hours before the router started to enforce the rule. With the consumer routers like Netgear and stuff like that, it happens instantly. And I'm like, what is the deal with this Ubiquity? Why is it taking so long? If I reserve something, it should happen. And I just lost my patience with it. I just said, look, I told the customer, I'll do what I can for you. I've got the app on my phone and I've got admin access to it, but I'm just like, call the other guy. I don't know what to say. Tell him to put it on auto update. And that thing gets constant updates.
Yes.
I get the alerts. It's like, this app updated on the Ubiquity and the OS updated on the Ubiquity. And it never stops.
Yeah.
I mean, updates are good, I guess, but this thing updates like 12 times a month. And
yeah, they update a lot. I think what probably is happening is he probably has a site manager for all of his clients. And what it is it's probably, if it's on a site manager, yes, there can only be one owner.
And he didn't volunteer to work with me. He
You
didn't
can
include me.
He can transfer ownership. He does not need.
Oh, I know that. And I told the boss, and he said he would. And then 2 months later, I reminded him, and I haven't talked to him since. And I said, I have nothing against this guy. I've never met him, but he's never once asked me my opinion on anything. He made network changes when he replaced the network I had in place. He changed the IP address. I don't know why didn't you just put it back?
That's just somebody who doesn't understand.
So
or know.
I got the call to clean up the mess. How come we can't print to the copy machine anymore? And it's because the copy machine was static IP'd. And he for no reason at all, he went with a different IP range, which was completely unnecessary. But since all the cameras and everything were now static IP'd, now if I change it over here, if I change the router to go back to the way it should be, then all the cameras will stop working. And I was like, oh, so you hired this guy to put in a bunch of equipment I would have never used. And now you don't like the guy and you want me to fix all the mess he made. All he had to do was talk to me. All he had to do was call me and say, hey, I'm getting ready to replace this. Do you have any advice for me? Do you think this would be okay? Common courtesy. And even after it was all said and done, I said, I'm happy to work together with him. The guy has no interest in working with me. None.
Yeah, he can set you up as a super admin and transfer ownership himself all right through the app. I just looked it up. So he's just either one, being lazy, or two, doesn't really want to transfer.
Right. And so because of that, my feeling towards Ubiquity, if this was anything else, like a Netgear, I'd just push a little pin in the back of the router and be done with it.
So I'll be honest with you. So Ingenious, I thought was going to have that issue as well when they went to the cloud management switches. Because you had to log into an app or you had to log into the cloud to do a lot of stuff, and that I did not want. But they still kept their regular line where you could do everything locally and not have to worry about the cloud account or stuff like that. So luckily Ingenious has kept that. They still have some cloud stuff. I believe it's called their Fit series. So their Fit models are still cloud based. And then you
Cloud
have to
only?
they start off as cloud, but you can enable local access.
So I don't have any problem with cloud access. I just like to have options, right? You use what you want. Let me use what I want. Don't tell me I have to do it your way, and I won't tell you have to do it mine. Like the whole app thing on the phone. I don't want my router here. has an app. Yeah, I might pull it up just to maybe check for updates on the router. It's easier on the app with TP-Link. But when it comes to setting something up, like a brand new piece of equipment, I don't want to use the app. I want to log into the interface on the web browser and have a big screen. I want to, it's like watching a Hollywood movie on a little 6-inch screen. No, I want that on a giant screen with a great audio system. I want to see all the options. I mean, I've seen apps that are so poorly written, I can't find the option I'm looking for because you're supposed to click the picture of the device, which there's no indication that's anything other than a picture. And for some reason, I just hit it, and all of a sudden, all these other options appeared. Oh, okay, well, that would have been good to know. But if you give me the browser login, I have all the menus across the top and all the submenus across the left on most routers, and that's what I'm used to, is that full display. And I'm, you know, this, how much can you put on this little tiny screen? There's got to be menus and submenus, and I just want to get it done. I don't want
to. Yeah, there's a couple of the managed service platforms that are going app based, which I'm not a fan of. I don't mind web based, cloud based, as long as I can do the initial configuration locally through the web port of the device. I guess that's the best way to describe it. There was a firewall company that I reviewed a while back, and there was no way to get into the firewall locally. You had to connect it to the internet, not with a static IP. It had to grab and DHCP through the internet, which I'm like, that defeats the whole purpose of business-based stuff where we get static IPs.
Right. For security reasons, and you want to lock that down.
Yeah.
And if they're not holding up their end of the deal, how are you going to know until it's too late?
Right.
Because somebody got in and hacked them. Now they have access to your firewall. So I like having the option. I like to be able to decide, do I want to use the app? Do I want to use the web interface? Do I want to just log in locally? That's the best. You get all three options.
Yeah.
I don't like being forced into having to use a cloud or app-based option only. I don't mind being forced into having to use the browser, you know, as far as like a local login. Right. Because that's the way it always was. So to me, that should always be there no matter what. I understand that some equipment, it may not make a lot of sense to log into it locally because of, like, what's coming to mind are those, and I don't know if you still use these, but a while back, there were these, some discussion about these plugs, power strips that
smart
you plug
plugs
in. Are they called smart plugs?
Sometimes, yeah, some of them are smart plugs. Some of them are IP-based power.
Yeah, they'll like ping an address or a couple, and if it stops pinging, it figures your modem needs to be rebooted. It'll cut power to
like
plug.
Wattbox. Wattbox is the version I use.
Yeah. Okay. So I understand if you have to access the Wattbox from a cloud service, because otherwise you could just walk over to the Wattbox and physically push the button. That kind of makes sense, right? And I'm not sure that's even the case, but in this example, let's pretend it is, because then I have no real argument. But if I want to log into, well, I'll give you an example. If something requires me, let's go old school. Say I've got an old Linksys 54G blue and black router. And the customer says, I want to change my SSID. I would just log into the customer's computer with remote software, and then from their computer, log into the router locally.
Right.
I still wouldn't use a cloud-based service if there was one available because I'm not familiar with it. I stick to what I'm comfortable, what's familiar, what can get the job done quicker. So for me, that's just going with methods I'm familiar with. And I'm not averse to necessarily learning new things, but that's not the best time to learn when a customer wants something done, and you know what I mean?
Right.
Or if there was some uniformity in it. So if all these companies agreed that we're always going to have this on this part of the page, and we're always going to have, you know, a single pane of glass, let's call it, with everything you're looking for, similar to a router. You know, there's always an administration menu on a router. And it may be over here or it may be in a sub menu, but it's always there. If there is that sort of conformity in cloud-based interfaces, I haven't seen it.
Well,
and that would be the first thing that I'm looking for, is to learn it once.
right. And that's the thing. So you're not at the point where you need that, because it is out there. So actually Ingenious has a portal for that. It's their MSP manager. But somebody like you would not do that. I think you pay a couple $100 a year to have it, and you can see all of your clients' Ingenious equipment in the cloud. Ubiquity is like that. That's where I said the site manager, this person, I can see all of my clients' Ubiquity stuff from either the web interface or my app. So I can do all of that. Datto in our space is doing that with the managed services. Obviously the RMMs are built that way, but the equipment side, like you're describing, Ingenious added that. Datto added that for the internet access points.
It's optional. Like on Ingenious,
for the Datto, no, it's not optional in the Datto. On all the others, it is.
But Ingenious doesn't make the.
No, Ingenious, no.
I'm saying with Ingenious, for example, I've seen, like when I was pulling up reviews on these units to figure out what the heck they sent me, they did show like a cloud base and kind of explained it a little bit. And at scale, that makes sense. If you have 20 of these things,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah, but you still have a local option on those, which is what you want.
Exactly. And I think that should be like a law. They should say you have to do. I mean, I don't like the control Ubiquity puts on what I can do. It's no different. I don't like the control Apple puts on what I can do. I'm just not a fan of that. Let me do what I want to do, and don't tell me I can't do it. Don't get in my way, or I'll replace you, and I'll put something in that's more flexible, more accommodating.
Yeah, but from a managed service perspective, they like that, because that means that somebody can't come in and just change stuff. You know, if I'm the managed service provider for a client, I own the equipment, I own the relationship. I don't want somebody just to come in and be able to do something and that sort of stuff. So there's that side of it. Now I'm on the side of, I want to have something that I can do that, but I can easily transfer it. I can easily have it set up to where somebody can come in after me and pick up right where I left off. I'm not as restrictive, but I know that there are platforms out there where, yeah, it is the MSP owns everything, owns the keys to the kingdom, and with the aid of the vendor makes it so that somebody else can't come in. And like Cisco still does that with some of their stuff. I get switches all the time where the switch is tied to an account that has long since gone away, you know, and I can't do anything with them because I can't get ownership.
I would never do that to my customers.
Right.
If my customer wants to hire somebody else and start fussing around, because we're in a locked closet, all right? So if you're going to give somebody else a key to that closet and they can get in there and they can start mucking around with stuff, that's their equipment and that's their choice. And I will bill them to fix it if they want to come back. If they found somebody else that they're happier with, bye. Like, I'm a big believer in allowing people to make their own choices and to not protect people from themselves. I want my customers to come back to me because they want to, not because they have to.
Right.
And I've had customers do this. They brought, one customer let me go, said, well, what do you do here? we never see you. Well, I'm working remotely. Yeah, sure you are. So anyway, they ended up replacing me with somebody else. 5 years went by and they called me and said, would you consider coming back? Everything's down. Our email doesn't work. Our phones don't work. And they put us in the cloud because our NAS stopped working years ago. And they told us it was bad. And we bought another one. Now they say that one's bad. And now we're paying more than we ever paid you for Azure. And it's slow and it's taking forever. And and I thought this must not have been an easy phone call for them to make, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm like, you screwed me, but all right, I'll come back. So what the tech did is he set them up with a Synology that would automatically copy with Synology Drive, like a backup to another Synology,
Right.
and set file history to 32 versions per file. That thing was so full, it stopped working. It couldn't operate. There was no more drive space. So they said, it's bad. You need a new one. So they set up a new one the exact same way. And after a while, it filled like quickly. And they said, well, they're both bad. And I don't know anything about NASs. This is the third tech. Each tech had their own solution. The third tech says, I don't know anything about NASs, but I'm going to put you on Azure. And then they called me, and the NASs had covered in dust, cobwebs. And I took my leaf blower and I blew them out. And they, oh, these are bad. We're told they're bad. Well, I'll collect them. Let me get them out of the building. There's nothing wrong with them. You know, I just deleted the Synology drive, and then all of a sudden, you know, 90% of the space freed up.
Even if that, you can migrate to another NAS with larger space. I mean, I just did that.
But they said the NAS was bad.
Well, of course, you know,
because that's what they were told by their tech.
Right.
And you have to buy a new one. So they did with new drive. Both NASs were 4-drive Synologies, and they had maybe a terabyte. But the drive storage was like 8
so they
terabytes.
put in small, okay, 8 terabytes, but they only allocated a terabyte for the file size?
No. They allocated whenever they set up Synology Drive, which I don't use, they told it to maintain 32 copies of every file. File versioning, 32 times a terabyte of data, which over time, not much time, filled up the remaining 7 terabytes with file versioning.
They did something wrong.
Clearly. So, and the thing about the Synology is when you log into it, you can't see the Synology drive. It just shows there's a terabyte of data on your 8 terabyte drives. Your RAID array that's 8 terabytes is full. Well, where is it? And it took me a while to figure it out. And then you had to uninstall Synology drive. And when it did that, of course, you lose all the data that's in it, in the Synology drive, which should all just be duplicates anyway. And all of a sudden it goes, you have 7 terabytes free. There's nothing wrong with the NAS ever. So then we had to pull the terabyte down from Azure, which I don't know if they had any bandwidth cap or anything, but not my problem. And that ran for 3 days downloading. So we could put it all back the way it was and then get them off Azure. And because they're saying every time we go to load a file, it just takes forever. And by the way, the pandemic hit and they fully understood what remote access was that I was doing, that I told them earlier that seemed to go over their heads. Right. They completely understood it now. That's why we don't see you. That's why you don't see anybody anymore. And they ended up selling off the company. That was such a financial hit. Their phones didn't work for, well, the phones, turns out they had some construction. The construction company cut the cable. That took their internet down. That took about a week for the cable to be repaired or whatever they do. And then their email stopped working. And that was because I guess they had a virus infection and GoDaddy or Microsoft couldn't get a hold of anybody over there to say, you need to fix this. So they locked the account out. So we said, you know, we need to fix this. They said, yeah, we'll get around to it. And I had to call them every day for about 2 weeks. GoDaddy said, we're waiting on Microsoft support. I said, but I'm not paying Microsoft, I'm paying you. And I kept giving the customer daily updates. I'm like, they've acknowledged it's on their side and there's nothing they can do. They've opened, GoDaddy is open to support ticket with Microsoft. Microsoft is busy. They say they get back. I called them again every day for 2 weeks. I want to say it was 2 weeks. But what I found, what worked for me is I said, okay, what can we do in the meantime? I logged into their GoDaddy account, logged into their Office 365 and said, forward all email, and created a bunch of new email addresses and said, forward everything coming to this account to this one and everything coming from that. And that worked fine. And the owner of the company is like, do you know how many people we've talked to and not a single one of them thought to do that? Are you some kind of genius? And I'm like, well, thank you. Thank you very much. But I got lucky. I just thought, well, if it's blocking the email, maybe it'll let me forward it to somewhere else. It did. And so we just paid for a couple of extra email accounts. And when the problem got resolved, we just canceled those accounts and turned the forwarding off. And why nobody thought of it? Not even the people at GoDaddy. I mean, it boggles my mind. It's really simple stuff. And but the damage by then, customers couldn't reach them by phone. They couldn't reach them by email. It looked like they were out of business for like 3 weeks.
Wow.
So we got them all back up and running. We got their data recovered off the NASs. And I'd say within 6 months, the company was sold off. And the guy was getting older, and I think he's like, yes, they're going to retiring anyway. And
right.
I think that was
that sped up the process.
Yeah, I think it was like, well, I'm guessing. I don't really know all the internal decisions, but they're not a customer anymore because they don't exist anymore. And I just use that as a lesson. I tell people the guy asked me, he's like, what do you do here? I said, I go, how much data have you lost since I've been working for you? I haven't lost any. Okay. And how much downtime has your office had because the system's been down? We haven't had any. That's how you know I'm working for you. Okay, but what would happen if you didn't work for us anymore? I mean, would you change the oil in your car? Of course. Well, what would happen if you stopped doing that? I mean, how long is the car going to run? A year? 5 years? Yeah. I don't know. He said, okay, well, I think we're going to go a different direction then. That's like, and this was one of those deals where the guy was paying me the same rate. I never increased his rate for 10 years so that he wouldn't do that. And he did it anyway. So I'm a terrible businessman.
So when they went with that other tech, they were probably paying more money, right?
They just went over a tech a year for 5 years, a different tech. And every time a tech would come in, the tech would say, you have to buy this equipment. This is what I do.
Yeah.
So the second tech said, your NAS is bad, you need a new NAS instead of fixing it. And the third or fourth or fifth tech, it was probably the fifth tech, said, I don't know what these NASs are. I don't use them, but we're going to put you on Azure. And the customer they're assuming we're all the same. All of us techs are all the same.
Yep.
So whatever you say, I don't know, it's all like a foreign language. I'll just nod my head. And so when it was all said and done, how much did they spend? I have no idea. But I have to imagine it was a lot more. And believe me, when I came back, I charged them full price. I didn't do anything because I was a nice guy. Right. This is my going rate. This is how many hours. Every time I called GoDaddy and dealt with the frustration of waiting on hold and fixing your email that all these other people they tried couldn't get done, I got it done and you're paying top dollar for it. And he got a big invoice and he didn't say anything, but he also wasn't saying thank you. Like he was saying thank you right up until the invoice arrived.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And I'm like, well, if I'm doing it, I got to make up for, this mess that I was trying to. The whole reason I set my clients up the way that I do is so I never get these kind of blindsided, drop everything, the building's on fire calls, right? Like I'm not a fireman. And I will do that. I mean, there's only so much we can do to prevent problems. If a client calls and says, hey, our network's down, I will jump in my car right now and get over there. But I will do everything in my power to prevent that from happening. And we'll identify often indicators that something's wrong and deal with it before it gets worse. But what I found is I have reduced my stress level by probably 90% by just auditing and keeping an eye on things and nipping things in the bud before they become an issue. I had a client, they said the computer's making a weird noise. When did that start? Today. And it was like a Friday. I said, I'll tell you what, I've got keys to the building. I'll come in later tonight. Don't worry about it. You can leave the computer on or turn it off. It sounds like one of your fans is dying, and I'll have it fixed for you by Monday. I went over there Friday night, picked the machine up, was a power supply fan. I put a new power supply in, took it back Sunday evening, plugged it all back in. They're on MSP, they're on a contract, so no labor, just pay me for the power supply. And the power supply that was in there was over 12 years old. So I think they got their money's worth.
Yeah.
And we nipped it in the bud before it got worse.
Yeah.
Real easy, simple repair. low stress, and that's the only part about this job. Apart from the paperwork, I don't like the like you mentioned,
Emergency calls.
Yeah, stop everything you're doing. Like they think I'm just,
Yeah.
come on, ring. Like I've got nothing else to do. Just ring. So sometimes I have to remind them, I am self-employed. I do have other clients, but I will get to you ASAP. And I have a standard 4-hour SLA. At least that used to be. Is it still the standard?
I don't know, but I don't give an SLA.
You don't even offer one. You don't say, hey, if you call me, I promise I'm going to get back to you within this window.
No, I promise best effort. Or there's a new phrase, commercially, I forget what it is, but yeah, I was looking that up. Yeah, I will do, I think it's called commercially reasonable response time.
That's a new one.
Yeah, I'll have to go back.
It's not 30 minutes or less, or it's free.
Certainly not. But I'll be honest, without the SLA though, I haven't had any issues. I mean, because most of the time, I'm in the office 80% of the day. So it's rare that a customer calls and can't get me unless I'm at a conference or something like that. But even still, because of remote support, I can, log into the hotel Wi-Fi and do stuff as long as the hotel Wi-Fi is sufficient. So there's very rarely when a customer has to wait more than an hour for me at least to acknowledge them or attempt to try to help them. There are customers that'll be like, hey, I know you're in Orlando. You don't have to deal with this until you get back, sort of a thing. But even my big clients, my big law firms, I mean, I don't give them an SLA. But I will do my best to, help them as fast as I can. And I think
if the clients are happy and there's no issue, it's just initially when setting up that contract, I think it's a pretty common question. If we call you, how long should we wait for an answer? I mean, the clients don't ask you that?
Well, they do, but I don't get like new clients that often. So when I do get them, they're usually by referral. And I mean, we'll sit down and have the conversation and I'll say, look, I will tell you that most of our responses are pretty quick. I won't guarantee it, but we're pretty quick and you're free to call my other clients and ask them.
And you probably have maybe like a voicemail or maybe an autoresponder that says, we got your message. We're going to get to you here very soon. Something.
No, I've got Kim that answers the phone. If neither of us can get to the phone, it goes to voicemail and then we call them back. I mean, I know that some of the vendors out there are going to hate me for this, but I don't offer text or SMS. Don't try to reach me on Slack or any of those other channels. You call or email. And the preference is if it's important, you call.
Agreed. It's hard to send an email that your email's not working.
Right. But if something's not working, call. Worst case, it goes to voicemail. I get the message on my phone that there's a voicemail waiting. So if I look and I can listen to it, and I think the worst thing that happened to me one time is I was out, I don't know, it was like a Thursday night at a play or a concert in Palm Beach. And I did get a voicemail at like 8 o'clock at night. And it was a client that they're a decent sized client, pay me, quickly on time and stuff. And I did call them back and say, I got your message. It's not as a big a deal as you think it is. I'll take care of it in the morning.
And that was an acceptable answer. They were fine.
I mean, because
they needed a little reassurance.
Yeah, they just needed reassurance that, listen, it's not that big a deal. Yes, I know, but it's 8 o'clock at night. Go home, get some sleep. that sort of a thing. You don't have to be at court in the morning, that sort of a thing. But then there are people that like will call, and if you don't answer, they'll hang up, not leave a message, call back 5 minutes later, that sort of thing. There's those types of people. But I'll be honest with you. So I had one client at the was it the end of last year? Uh, Came flat out to me and said, "Hey, we're not doing very well. We need to pay you less. How can we do that?" And I said, "You can't. You should be paying me more." And they went and looked for replacement technicians or another MSP. And about a month later, we were just chatting, and I kind of said, "Hey, whatever happened to that? Because you're still calling me." So, and they said, "Oh yeah, we looked, and they were twice as much as you."
So there's a difference between you and I, and why I'm such a bad business person. I'd say, well, it'd be like if you were checking out at the grocery store and your total was more than the amount of money that you have. Let's put some things back. What would do you really need this item in your shopping cart? Let's put it back. Let's get down to where you need to be. So let's minimize my services. Let's strip it out and say, are you okay with me no longer doing this service or that service? If so, then we can reduce the price by that. I would work with them, but it would be to my own demise. I like your way better, but
yeah, there's certain things in our new cyber era. There is a baseline that we just can't go below. Yeah.
Okay.
And so it starts there. And then if you want these additional services, then we can add those on. But there is a baseline that I just won't go below. And part of it is to put the tools on to support. Those come at a cost. So that cost plus a little margin.
Well, that's true.
And my labor to maintain them. So that we do that. And listen, my rates they're not the most expensive. I know that, but they're not the cheapest. And, I will get the occasional, why should we pay you the same amount of money as we would a big MSP that has, 50 techs? And I'm like, well, I can't give you the answer that you want to hear unless you want to literally compare apples to apples, but you can't. So the bottom line is, which one is going to service you better, make you feel better, and give you what you need, as opposed to you being put into a ticket number and they'll treat you the way that they want to treat you if they want to respond to you or that sort of thing. We have those discussions all the time. But I just tell them,
again, in that case, I go, well, you have a very personal service with me. When you call me, I'm the one who's going to answer the phone. When someone comes out, it's going to be me. You're not going to have to explain it 6 times to 6 different people. And there's not a rotation of different people that are getting hired and fired all the time where you don't see the same person twice. Yeah. There's a trust and a relationship that we're building.
But they still want that, well, what if something happens to you?
Yes.
And so I tell them, well, I have a backup who's here locally. And if they're in another town, I've got other techs that I work with that have access to all the information for your systems. So if something happened to me, somebody can step in and do that. And now in my situation, I've got what we call the run book of all their important information, all their configurations, all their passwords and stuff. They have a copy of that on their local network so that if, God forbid, the worst happens, they can get into that, hand that off to the next technician, and move along. So I give them all of that. But I tell them, I said, look, I'm doing the same stuff as the other companies. I just don't have a help desk of 15 people waiting for that call. And because of that, I don't have to go out and get 1,000 more endpoints to pay for those, technicians that are sitting there. I can take care of you and these handful of other clients that I work with and give you that boutique experience that you want.
It's more personal. It's less mechanized. We're dealing with people and not just dealing with your Uncle Marv. You're not customer 87452.
Right.
There's something impersonal and mechanized about the way some businesses operate, where you're not really seen as anything other than a customer. And building that relationship is something you're just not typically going to get with a corporation.
Yeah.
It's more old school in the sense where, cheers, everybody knows your name, kind of there's a trust. You can count on me, that kind of thing, that hopefully. But and I also, by the way, before I forget to mention, I have a barrier as well. If I tell a customer, look, you want to save some money, we can back up less often. When they say, well, what if we just don't back up at all? You can find another tech, because that's not going to be on me. That's not negotiable. We have to have some kind of a backup. Now, if you only want to do it once a month, that's fine. But if you say, no, I'll do it myself, no, absolutely not. Because now you're going to count on me to save the day, and you will have made it impossible for me to save you. And I don't want that on me at any price. I don't want to diminish my service to rescue you because you won't let me. So it wouldn't be the right choice for you. You'd probably want to find somebody else. That's for me. Like, I can negotiate just about anything else but that one thing. We have to have backups. We've got to have them off site. The frequency of which the customer can say if they want, what frequency. But no, we'll take care of it ourselves. Deal's off the table. Or I've had them say, well, what if we, instead of doing like a retainer, what if we just call you when we need you? And I say, well, if I'm available, and I'll charge you whatever the going rate is, that's fine. But my retainer customers come first. And it's not like I'm sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. I will always prioritize my retainer customers for service first at a lower price, because they're paying in bulk. Just like Costco, you're buying in bulk. The retainers are basically buying bulk hours. They're cheaper per hour. And it also encourages preventive maintenance. So we're not being reactive and panicking and pressure. We're being proactive, and it doesn't interrupt the workday. We can schedule upgrades. We can schedule a lot of repairs. They don't necessarily have to be done. I'm not a fireman, right?
Right.
I don't have red and blue lights on my car, so I can get over there real quick. I don't want that. You don't want. I remember one discussion I had with a client. I said, if you would have called me about this when it first started happening, this would have been a lot easier for me to resolve. And the customer goes, yeah, that's what's on my mind, is how can I make it easier for Carey? I said, if it's easier on me, that means it takes less time, and it's going to cost you less money.
And it's better for you, easier for me.
And they said, well, I was just kidding. You didn't have to take it seriously. But I'm like, but seriously, it's in your best interest to keep it easy on me.
Yeah. So let me do one thing and just make sure I clarify one thing, and then we'll probably go ahead and end off here. And I see that somebody just jumped in. Adam Belinsky chopped on late night entertainment. Yes, Uncle Marv, this is after hours. So,
only 7 o'clock here.
Yeah. So I do need to clarify. So what I try to do with this show and with everything that goes on, there is the great debate over MSP versus solo tech. And that's always a thing. So I like to make sure
you can be both.
I do that, but there are customers that need extended hour support or 24/7 support. And in that case, then that would be something where you do need to find a company that will match that. I did have a customer one day say to me, who, by the way, they didn't need it, but he just wanted it. And he said, I need you to hire a tech so you can give us, 24/7 support. And I said, then you need to pay 24/7 prices. And he laughed and he goes, oh, okay. I mean, it's just weird like that. But there are larger MSPs that do a great job of being personable. they do a great job of making customers feel like people, and not just another number. And, they do answer the phone, and, you know, they try to make you deal with the same technician or two in that sense. There are a lot of MSPs that do that. I think where the rub is that MSPs are trying to gobble up other MSPs and get as big as possible, and, commoditize what we're doing. And I'll be honest, there's a part of me that hates that just as much as the solo tech that is doing a poor job, because both sides are hurting our industry. The solo tech who's, you know, undercutting prices, cutting corners, not giving them the support. I mean, even you with your comment about backup is not optional. You will have a backup. There are a lot of companies, solo techs and large MSPs. All right, you don't want backup? That's fine. We can't operate that way. So the MSP, the solo tech, the IT service provider that is doing all of the things to keep the customer up and running, that is doing everything to make life easier for the customer, that is working with them to keep their bottom line down, because a lot of the stuff that we do can help the business be more efficient. But at the same time, protecting them from the threats that are out there, protecting them from downtime, protecting them from employees that, good intentioned or bad intentioned, can bring down the network. That's our job. That's what we got to do. So,
yes, but they can't tie our hands and then tell us, to do both at the same time. And yeah, I mean, that's fair. I'm sure there are MSPs that assign text to clients, and that's great. I tend to categorize sort of the stereotype of the MSP of just the faceless, soulless corporation, and they're not all that way. But the bigger it gets, the more successful they are. And generally, the more expensive they get and the less personable they get overall and in general. And, every client's got their own needs. And, if somebody says, I want 24/7 support, 24/7 prices is a perfect answer. You want to go schedule an appointment with your GP, or do you want to go to the emergency room in the last minute? Which one is going to have you wait longer and pay more? But they're both your option, or they could be. Maybe not the emergency room. But I'm saying, if it's, you could go to the emergency room rather than make an appointment. If it's not an emergency, you're going to pay a lot more and you're probably going to wait a lot longer. And when I have a potential customer that says they want to be reactive, I don't want to be reactive. Yeah. I want to be proactive. If you want reactive, I'd say just go find somebody on Craigslist, right? If people think that I can just hire anybody to do your job, I will not try to change their mind. My attitude is, it used to be, I would tell them all the reasons why they couldn't. I don't do that anymore. It's a waste of time, because now they just want to prove you wrong. Now it gets personal.
Yeah.
I just go, look, if you can find somebody who does what I do as quick as I do it, as cheap as I do it, and does it right the first time as often as I do it, and they're going to charge you less, would you please give me their name? Because I would love to hire them. And I don't mean that sarcastically. I mean that sincerely. Please give me their name. On the other hand, look, if you do find that person and you don't want to give me their name, you're happy, they're happy, I'm happy, everybody's happy. I'll go on my own way, you go on your own way. It's all good. But if you find you can't find that person, keep my number. Nothing personal. You want to go look and see what's out there? Go look. I'll still be here if you ever want to come back. It's just business. I understand. You want to go see what the alternatives are. I encourage you to do so. That's how confident I feel. I don't have to say it out loud. You're coming back. But I don't say that. I just
don't say it. All right,
Go
let's
ahead.
go ahead and we'll end off the show here. This is probably going to be a record for my live stream.
Not even close.
Even with the glitches that happened, and I don't know where they were with StreamYard or internet. Very interesting there. But yeah, this is, I have to go back and look because there are some Podnuts Pro days where we went long. So I'll have to check on those.
You knew what you were in for when you invited me on.
Absolutely. That's why I created this after hour slot for that. So Carey, let's you stay on. I'm going to say goodnight to everybody else, especially because we had some latecomers, but thank you for hopping on. And Adam Belinsky, what did he? Channel is always here 24/7, and Marvin will be sure and bring those badass steak knives. So what Adam is referring to is the IT Nation Pitch It contest. Carey, so every summer, IT Nation, which is a subset of ConnectWise, one of the vendors in the channel, they do a vendor incubator program where they'll get about 25 vendors, put them through a boot camp, and they will compete and pitch their company and product in a competition, kind of Shark Tank style, but over 16 weeks. And they pitch to judges, they pitch to MSPs, and then there's a final judging that happens at the IT Nation conference in November. The last 3 have to go up on stage in front of the conference attendees and pitch their product. And then there's a first place winner that gets 70 grand, a second place winner that gets 30 grand, and a third place winner that gets nothing. At least that was until I stepped up and said they at least got to get a set of steak knives. So
that
for
seems
the last,
random.
yes. So for the last 3 years, I've presented steak knives to the third place winner. The first year, I think they threw them away.
Are these good steak knives? Are these like Wusthof or like?
Well, no, the first ones were like cheap dollar store steak knives.
We're not talking Henkel, not dishwasher safe. Must be hand washed.
No, so the last set was they were pretty nice. I got them off Amazon, but they came in a wood case. They were wood handled. They were nice. This year, I'm hoping to get a sponsor so we can actually get, some very nice steak knives. So that's what we're working on.
All right. That's very random.
Yes, it is. It is. So that's what Adam's referring to. Adam, thanks for popping on this late at night. And for those of you that, that's actually just somebody else just popped on. So I'm sure people are like,
my people.
That's probably your people. Carey's on. Let's see what he is. It's not my people. My people are in bed. All right, folks. Carey, stay with me. We're going to say goodnight. This will be it for the Wednesday night show. Presented to you by Threat Locker. Thank you to Carey Holzman for coming on. Links to his YouTube page and some of his other stuff will be in the show notes. Go check him out, and you can get all the information on PC builds and some of the latest in PC architecture. Carey is much more knowledgeable in a lot of that stuff than I am. But thank you much, Carey. That'll be it,
thank
folks.
You for having me on.
Yeah,
I really loved it. It's been too long. It's been great talking to you.
All right, folks, that's it. We'll see you soon. And until then, holla.